acelera Brasil. Nas pistas do céu a bandeira vai tremular, a elite se encontra, prontos pra acelerar, com motores rugindo, coração a mil, braços na direção, somos um só perfil. Acelera minha paixão, no circuito sinto a emoção, Brasil meu lar, minha vida, na liga dos sonhos a corrida é querida. Sinta a vibração, o cheiro de gasolina, cores vivas, reluzem na adrenalina. No asfalto quente, os pneus gritando, deixa pra trás quem não tá acompanhando. Acelera minha paixão, no circuito sinto a emoção, Brasil meu lar, minha vida, na liga dos sonhos a corrida é querida. Sinta a vibração, o cheiro de gasolina, cores vivas, reluzem na adrenalina. No asfalto quente, os pneus gritando, deixa pra trás quem não tá acompanhando. Sinta a vibração, o cheiro de gasolina, cores vivas, reluzem na adrenalina. No asfalto quente, os pneus gritando, deixa pra trás quem não tá acompanhando. Sinta a vibração, o cheiro de gasolina, cores vivas, reluzem na adrenalina. No asfalto quente, os pneus gritando, deixa pra trás quem não tá querendo. Acelera minha paixão, no circuito sinto a emoção, Brasil meu lar, minha vida, na liga dos sonhos a corrida é querida. Lá vem a curva, hora de decidir, com um giro e um foguete vou me divertir. As estrelas do céu brilham como a vitória, na elite do race escrevo minha história. Acelera minha paixão, no circuito sinto a emoção, Brasil meu lar, minha vida, na liga dos sonhos a corrida é querida. Quando a bandeira quadriculada surgir, saberei que em cada volta consegui resistir. O espírito brasileiro forte e audaz, do coração da corrida somos todos iguais. Acelera minha paixão, no circuito sinto a emoção, Brasil meu lar, minha vida, na liga dos sonhos a corrida é querida. Acelera, acelera, vamos juntos sonhar, nas pistas do Brasil prontos pra triunfar. Elite do race, aqui é nosso lugar, acelera meu amigo, é hora de brilhar.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome here to Brazil for round number 2 of the Solo Sports Car Series here in the Elite Racing League. My name is Robert Hill Jr., flying solo here this morning. We'll likely be joined by some drivers throughout the day here today, but welcome to Autódromo. Jos Carlos Pace. I'm not going to try that one again because I am not Brazilian or Portuguese whatsoever. Just wrapping up qualifying here for the GT3s, and it's been a very blistering pace here so far today. These drivers putting in some great work getting set for round number 2. Today's race is going to be a 2-hour and 40-minute sprint, unlimited tires as per usual for these drivers, so not going to be worried too much about the rubber on those race cars. As I mentioned, qualifying just wrapping up. We'll go to the starting grid here momentarily once the drivers do head down to the grid, but I can tell you it's Lake Norman's Ethan Stanley on the overall pole in GT GTP, and even Aguado for Enosis down in the GT3 class. As looks like we are making that transition over to the starting grid here in just a second. We'll get some cars out here on that starting grid for you momentarily, and we'll take a full run through. But in the meantime, why don't we go ahead and look at the practice results here, just show you the kind of pace these drivers have run here today. Looking in GTP, it was Fueled Up Racing leading the way in the 54 machine. That car, of course, anchored by Jordan Owens, driving that machine. The Little Eagle Racing number 4, that's Ryan Schultz and company. Currently, they were second in practice, and the 941 with Ethan Stanley third in GTP. Looking at GT3, a bit of a different story there. Enosis with Even Aguado and company leading the way over Isentech Racing's 77 of Cameron Rich and the 99 of Hayden Fowler and company for Night Racing Blue. And I can tell you in GT3, it's very, very similar qualifying to practice times there, as the same cars really showing some great pace here. As we have just wrapped up qualifying, we're going to get set to head down to the grid where we will find our starting field. And we'll begin with the starting grid for GTP. Hold on there. We just have a quick graphical error. There we go. Ethan Stanley going to start on the pole for Lake Norman Racing. It's Richard Hearn for 4D Racewear starting on the outside pole. Gavin Hibbs for Lake Norman in the 961 going to start third. Ryan Schultz for Little Eagle Racing. Warriors for Peace Entry there going to start in fourth. Jordan Owens for Fueled Up Racing going to start in fifth. Adrian Fernandez for ADRA Esports in sixth. Kel Pocock and Corey Abbott, the two Abbott Motorsports cars, going to make up row number 4 as we venture down just a little bit here. Zach Rogers and Richard Walsifer are going to round out GTP for Fueled Up and company there, as well. As we look at GT3, Even Aguado for Enosis going to start on the pole in GT3 with Cameron Rich to his outside. Hayden Fowler for Night Racing Blue and Caleb Pecuber for Lake Norman Motorsports going to make up row number 2 in GT3. Graham Bullis for Leviathan going to start in 5th. Austin and Abnett for Lake Norman Motorsports in 6th. Mark Paul Buttigieg and Ryan Huckleberry going to round out GT3 as we look down at the grid, just waiting on our pole sitter, Mr. Ethan Stanley, to take his rightful position. Actually, there he is. Looks like they're going to do a half pace lap, so never mind. They're not even going to sit on the grid. Thanks, guys. Making me look funny up here as we look down on the racetrack. There we go. Yeah, I agree with what Ethan Stanley said. Interlagos for short. That is much, much easier. Ethan Stanley over in the YouTube chat. He's now on the racetrack. Going to start on the pole for Lake Norman Motorsports. Always a very fast driver, no matter where we go, no matter what we do. And you're going to see the GT3 field here kind of pacing themselves back a little bit. That's to give ourselves a staggered start, not to worry too much about having these cars run into each other or anything like that as they work their way towards this starting grid and the green flag to get underway here today. If you're joining us in the YouTube chat, let us know where you're watching from. Of course, we do have viewers from all around the globe here today, especially with these sports cars, and it's going to be nice to follow along, see what these drivers have to offer throughout the day, and to see who you're cheering for. Obviously, some great options all throughout the day here today. Typically on these broadcasts, we'd make some race picks. I'm going against myself here, so I'm going to go ahead and take my pick for the overall win here today. I'm going to go with Fueled Up Racing's number 54. That's Jordan Owens and company. They're going to be starting 5th in GTP. And in GT3, I'm going to go with Isentech Motorsports, Isentech Enterprises number 77 of Cameron Rich. As we work our way around, looks like the pace car going to make its way down towards pit lane. The GTP field coming to take the green flag. It's a foggy morning here in Brazil, but nonetheless, we're underway. Racing round number 2 of the Solo Sports Car Series, and Ethan Stanley going to lead it. Oh, he goes around. Stanley loses it in turn number 1. Wow, He gathers it back up, continues on. GT3 underway. Zach Rogers going to go around. He has a heavy impact there. Let's see what just happened to Rogers to bring out, or not bring out any cautions, but to go for an absolute looper here and ends up in the barrier. He just loses it, backs into the wall, collects another car there as he worked his way around. So early dramas here in GTP. And that included Ethan Stanley, who absolutely had a moment right there. Not a moment he was hoping to have either, because that is not the way to start this one. As Zach Rogers takes it to pit lane, he's going to bring it to the attention of his crew, see if he can get that machine fixed up. That hands the race lead over to Gavin Hibbs in the 961 machine. We're going to go ahead and load up the weather here. Just take a quick gander at that. Track temperature currently sitting at 75 degrees Fahrenheit, ambient temperature 67.5, but that relative humidity currently sitting at 97%. So very, very high. That's likely to lead to some of these loosey-goosey conditions we're seeing out here on the racetrack right now. And of course, that fog coming into play as well. Not what these guys were hoping to be dealing with today, but should be okay nonetheless as Hibbs continues to lead overall. Jordan Owens right behind him there. Owens doing a nice job. By the way, your tower here today, we're going to have it indicating intervals so you can see where the battles are throughout the field. A smaller field, by the way, as Richard Walsifer going to take it pit side. I believe he was the other car involved in the incident with Zach Rogers there not too long ago. So both of those cars currently getting their machines fixed up. We do have a couple of lineup changes here today compared to round number 1 at Indianapolis. We'll touch on those a little bit later on when those respective drivers get behind the wheel. One of those being with Venom Racing, where Dave Huckleberry getting out of the car. Zach Huckle Evans going to get behind the wheel. And of course, Zach Evans, one of our colleagues here at the Elite Racing Network, he's going to team up with the young Ryan Huckleberry here today and see what they can do to put a solid run together. Currently sitting 8th in GT3. As we look at GT3, the battle's on for the race lead here. Cameron Rich has taken over, but he's going to go side by side with even Aguado. Aguado, of course, a very strong runner in the opening round at Indianapolis a month or so ago, and he's showing some great strength here so far, as well as he battles it out with Cameron Rich. They're trying to hold off the Canadian Hayden Fowler just behind them there, but back up front, a couple quick times, a couple drivers putting in their quick time of the day. Gavin Hibbs and Jordan Owens, as we'll look at the battle that's starting to brew for third between Colin Winslow and Ryan Schold as they chase down Jordan Owens and Gavin Hibbs for the overall spots here in GTP. By the way, Richard Walsifer just now coming back out onto the racetrack, so he is going to be a couple of laps to the rear of the race leaders. Actually only one lap, so lucky for him it is a bigger racetrack, as you will see on our track map that will pop up here in just a moment down on the bottom right corner of your screen. A large circuit here. These drivers definitely going to have their work cut out for them here today. 2.62 miles is the distance on this racetrack, so definitely on the larger side as we continue to follow along. These guys doing a great job here in the opening laps of today's race. Hibbs doing a fantastic job, leading by about a second and a half over Jordan Owens. Owens has about 0.8 of a second back to Colin Winslow, who has half a second back to Ryan Schold. There's another 2 back to Adrian Fernandez, and Cale Pocock currently holding off Ethan Stanley and Corey Abbott. That is the rest of your front-running cars in GTP, as saying Corey Abbott had a crash, but Corey has definitely not crashed here. He is still very much running as we're watching him live on the Elite Racing Network. Checking on the YouTube chat. Eric Fox saying that Lake Norman is somewhat local to him, so he really wants to see the night racing fellas whip them. That's actually quite funny, Eric, and hopefully they do. Night racing very well represented in the YouTube chat here today. Keith Rainey also cheering them on. as we jump back to this battle for the first position in GT3. It continues to be a battle between Cameron Rich and Even Aguado. Aguado currently holding on to that second position in class, as Caleb Pecumer just had a brief off-track moment there. He's able to gather it up, and it does continue on without too much of a hassle. Cale Pocock also having a brief step off. He's under pressure from Ethan Stanley. That is for position number 6 here in class, as these guys duke it out. Richard Walsifer doing a bit of landscaping work. Interlagos gonna have to get invoiced for that work that was just completed by the 6 machine of Walsifer's. We're gonna ride on board with Even Aguado here briefly. He's currently chasing down Cameron Rich in the Eisentech Enterprises 77 for first in GT3, as Ethan Stanley able to get by Cale Pocock. Pocock had an off-track excursion there in that pass, so he's now having to gather it back up and does continue on. But let's take a look at that pass for position number 6 in class. Watching Stanley just behind Pocock here, as Pocock holds on to the 6th position. Stanley there in 7th. Oh, Pocock went for a slider and goes around, but he's able to gather it back up and does continue on at the tail, as these guys working their way back up through the field. Definitely keep an eye on Ethan Stanley. Even though he may have been troubled early on, it's not over, as we see the pass has been completed for first here in the GT3 field. We'll actually take a look at that one real quick, as Even Aguado makes the pass. I believe he's going to make that dive to driver's left on Cameron Rich, heading down here deep down this straightaway. Aguado able to make that move. This, I believe, was the same corner that we saw Pocock go around. No, actually, it wasn't, but nonetheless, Aguado able to make that move, and then Cameron Rich battles right back to the top spot. They're going to continue to be side by side as they work their way around the Interlagos circuit. These guys doing a very, very solid job battling it out for that top spot in GT3 on what is a immensely foggy day here today. As Walsifer gonna go off the racetrack once again towards the rear. He gathers it back up, able to continue on without too much of a hassle as these guys continue to battle it out. Let's look a little bit further back in GT3, where we see Jesse Racimas driving the 999 here today for Lake Norman Motorsports, currently sitting 7th in GT3. Behind him, Ryan Huckleberry for Venom Racing, currently holding on to that 8th position. They're both chasing Mark Paul Buttigieg, that holds on to the 6th position, but is in a battle here with Caleb Pecumer, Graham Bullis, and himself for that position. It's a battle of a Porsche, a Ferrari, and a McLaren, all duking it out, as actually Pecumer going to have a brief blinking moment there. So not what Caleb Pecumer wants to experience, and not what Graham or Mark Paul want behind him either, because that can be a little bit sketchy as these guys try to chase him down. But back up front, we see Gavin Hibbs continuing to lead, already 7 laps into this one here today, and doing a fantastic job. Even Aguado still leading there in GT3. Just kind of taking a look, see if potentially we can have a word with one of the drivers in the field here today. Let's go ahead and talk with the co-driver of the 121 machine, Dominic Wright. Hey Dominic, it's Robert up in the booth. You get a copy?
I hear you, Robert.
Very, very foggy morning here so far at Interlagos. What are you hearing from your co-driver out there on the racetrack right now?
Yeah, this is definitely a bit different than last time we came out here and raced. All through practicing this week, been very clear that this car is very loose and not very
Yeah, it definitely does seem like that. We saw some absolute chaos in the opening laps there, including Ethan Stanley and Zach Rogers both going around in the GTP field. What's Corey thinking so far? Is he feeling that unsettled feeling in the seat right now?
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of that going on. You know, we had a little spin moment early on, but I think right now his mind's just focused on keeping the car on track and keeping us alive until the end of the race.
That's definitely the goal. And what's the plan for you guys today? When do you expect to go behind the wheel? Are you just going to split the race down the middle, or are you guys going to trade stints back and forth?
I think currently the plan is we're going to go one stint each and see where that gets us. Figure it out a little bit towards the end.
Well, definitely a good plan there, Dom. I'll let you get back to the team and keep Corey calm out there. Keep him going in the right direction.
Yeah. Have a great broadcast, and hopefully we can put on a little bit of a show back here.
Appreciate it, Dominic. That's Dominic Wright, co-driver of the 121 with Corey Abbott. Always nice to have the chance to talk to a couple of these drivers, see what they're feeling, and the co-drivers as well that haven't gotten behind the wheel yet, as we're going to look at this brewing battle, one that I really expect to be an absolute heater here shortly. Colin Winslow currently holding on to that third position behind the wheel of the number 40 for 4D Racewear SRT, just ahead of the Warriors for Peace Little Eagle Racing entry of Ryan Schuld, as actually just ahead of them here, Jordan Owens battling through some lap traffic. That's Ryan Huckleberry going a lap down in the Venom Racing GT3 entry. He does a fantastic job getting out of the way, letting those leaders go on by, letting them eat just a little bit more. As just to point out, Zach Rogers has rejoined the race field in the number 88 machine for Brake Hard Fueled Up Racing. So very, very good to see him back out here. Unfortunately, they are quite a bit off of the lead right now, but going to see what they can do to maybe salvage something out of the day, as they currently sit 6 laps down. And by the way, there is a slight chance of precipitation out here on the racetrack today. Very slim. It maxes out at about 2%, but that 99% humidity really going to make it feel like the track is slick, like the track is wet, and we very well could have some chaos from that here today, as Gavin Hibbs going to go on by. He's working his way past Caleb Pecumer, who's in a battle with the Mark Paul Buttigieg machine. 3 wide as Jordan Owens going to go by on driver's right. Contact. Oh, Colin Winslow going to get a piece of that one. That got very sketchy for a moment. Richard Walsifer going to go off in the background, but we're going to jump back to this battle that has absolutely created some chaos here. Schuld trying to get by now. He's going to go to driver's left as the 3 wide battles do continue. Ethan Stanley right here as well. He's just hoping that his Lake Norman teammate Caleb Pecumer thinks better of maybe going 3 wide again, lets him go by, because Stanley's right back in this thing, just needs the opportunity to sneak through, as he does now. Buttigieg and Pecumer are going to work their way over to driver's right and let Ethan Stanley cycle on through. Here comes Adrian Fernandez in that beautiful Adra Esports machine. That was one of my favorite looking rides back in Indianapolis, and once again it has caught my eye here today as these drivers continue to work their way around. 14 minutes in to today's 2-hour and 40-minute session. Throughout the day today, we'll be continued to be joined by some of the drivers throughout the field, as just taking a gander through. No major battles on the racetrack. There is one starting to brew here between Schuld and Stanley, as Stanley's closing back in on that 4 machine of Ryan Schuld, which honestly is impressive here, that he's been able to recover from that. But Ethan Stanley, he's one of the goats here when it comes to these left and right hand races here in the Elite Racing League. For those that don't normally follow along, anytime you go to a road course, you can always expect Ethan Stanley to be a contender at those racetracks. As we watch the battle between Caleb Pecumer and Mark Paul Buttigieg, Pecumer doing a fantastic job. We'll talk to him later on once he gets out of the car to get his observations on this opening stint. And again, not sure what the plan is for most of these teams here today. If they plan on trading off stints, if they're going to split the race, we will see, as of course this one a little bit different, being a sprint compared to what we had not too long ago at Indianapolis. That one going about a month or so ago, so very quickly moving on through these races. And by the way, just a quick gander at the schedule. Next time out will be on June the 14th, so almost 2 months off, but that one is going to be the longest one of the year. That is the Elite 24 Hours of France. That is at Circuit de 24 de Mans. That's going to be the longest race over there at Le Mans, and we hope you join us for that. We're going to try to be live for the entire 24 hours. I don't know if we'll be able to do it, but we're going to try our darndest to get that broadcast out to you all race long, as Ethan Stanley does complete the pass there on Ryan Schuld. He's going to work his way up to that 4th spot, now chasing down Colin Winslow, who holds on to the 3rd position. Stanley about 2.5 seconds behind him. But let's quickly take a look at the lap time comparison, if we can, between these two drivers. So the battle for 3rd in class is showing Winslow and Stanley. That's Zach Rogers up top, just because he's in the vicinity of these drivers. But 2.5 seconds back is Ethan Stanley right there. As we'll look at the lap time history, 0.7 of a second is how much quicker Ethan Stanley was last time by in comparison to Colin Winslow. So I would definitely expect that to eliminate itself rather quickly as Ethan Stanley continues his blistering pace between himself and Colin Winslow. It was 2.5 seconds last time we checked. Now sitting at about 2.3 as these drivers cycle their way through. Stanley was able to clear Schuld and is pulling away just a little bit. And Ryan Schuld now has a battle of his own here as Adrian Fernandez closing in on him. And just looking down at GT3, they're dealing with a GTP car trying to work its way up through the field, that being Richard Walsifer, as he just got by Caleb Pecumer in that battle with himself and Mark-Paul Buttigieg, now trying to chase down Hayden Fowler, Cameron Rich, and Ivan Aguado. That's your top 3 in GT3. Looking a little further back in GTP, Caleb Pocock sitting 7th in class there. He's about 15 seconds behind Adrian Fernandez, but only about 1.5 seconds ahead of his teammate in Corey Abbott there. The 121 and the 212 are those two Abbott Motorsports entries. Just behind Corey there. Not sure which car that was, as he just worked his way by one of these blue entries. That is Hayden Fowler, the 3rd place GT3, as he continues to navigate his way around the circuit here at Interlagos. We'll watch that battle that honestly has not eliminated itself yet between Ethan Stanley and Ryan Schuld. As you see just ahead of Ethan Stanley there, that is a lapped car. That is Zach Rogers in the 88 for Brake Hard Fueled Up Racing, as his teammate John Cutlip will get behind the wheel of that car just a little bit later on for his first run of the afternoon. What we're going to do, though, is we're going to take a look next time that Gavin Hibbs goes by the start-finish line. We'll actually do an entire lap on board with him, as actually a couple drivers just having some issues towards the rear. Both of those Abbott Motorsports cars had an off-track moment for just a second there, but as mentioned, this upcoming time by, once Gavin Hibbs heads to that start-finish line, we'll hop on board with him, see a lap around the circuit, and see what these drivers are experiencing here at Interlagos, especially in these very, very foggy conditions. The visibility not as high as you would expect and as you'd want here, but let's go on board now with Gavin Hibbs. And that was some time on board there with Ethan Stanley. Thanks to him for allowing us to ride on board there as he continues to work his way around, doing a fantastic job here so far. Actually, sorry, not Ethan Stanley. That was Gavin Hibbs. I'm just so used to Ethan Stanley being out front in these things. As we look back, there is the battle for that third position in class between Colin Winslow and Ethan Stanley. Stanley currently sitting fourth in the 941 machine. Winslow in third for 4D Racewear. Be sure to check them out. They have some great products, including the original gloves for your feet. Products made for sim racers by sim racers. 4dracewear.com for all your sim racing needs. As this is your closest battle on the racetrack currently, the battle for the top spot actually heating up as well, as Gavin Hibbs had a brief moment with some lap traffic, slowed him down just a little bit there, battling it out with Ryan Huckleberry in the Venom Racing number 5 machine. That has allowed Jordan Owens to close in on that battle with Gavin Hibbs, but we're going to watch this battle briefly as Ethan Stanley takes a look to the inside of Colin Winslow. Winslow has a bit of a bobble there, gathers it back up, continues on, but Stanley going to go on through goes Stanley, and he works his way up to position number 3, but Winslow not giving up quite yet as he currently holds on to that 4th spot. Going to try to get it back from Stanley if he can. Goes briefly off the racetrack there, but gathers it back up as we go back up front. Gavin Hibbs, once he was able to clear Ryan Huckleberry, has really set himself up to pull away once again. And that's at about 0.7 of a second. So we'll jump to another battle in GTP, this between Abbott Motorsports teammates of Corey Abbott and Cale Pocock. As Pocock, he dives in there, he sticks it in deep as he closes in on Corey Abbott. That gap currently sitting at about 0.4 of a second between the 7th and 8th place cars in GTP. By the way, Richard Walsifer was able to work his way through the GT3 field, now tacks on 1 lap down to the tail of GTP. So good to see some great recovery from those guys as Owen's going to close back in on Gavin Hibbs for that top spot as they can. Oh my gosh, Jordan Owens gets wrecked, as does Hibbs. Oh my word, this is absolute chaos right here. Something major just happened. Let's see if we can find out what that was, as looks like one of our lap cars gonna get into the side of Jordan Owens. That sends Owens around. Let's see if we can find out who that vehicle was, because that has taken out both of our top 2. Is Jordan Owens going to get hit here? Just trying to find out who that other car was that got into him. It's very hard to tell with the fog that we're currently experiencing. So we're going to close in on this battle from a tight view just to see if we can grab a number on that race car. That is the 70 of Graham Bullis, the Leviathan entry. Gets into Owens, gonna slide him over into Hibbs. Both of these cars gonna get collected in this one and lose a ton of time. Stanley gonna go through, Schultz gonna go through, Fernandez and Winslow also gonna make their way through. So Jordan Owens and Gavin Hibbs, they've now fallen to 5th and 6th in class, and that's given the lead to the guy that went around on lap number 1 in Ethan Stanley. But I got to imagine that there was some absolute drama there from Race Control. Race Control not going to be happy with that one. I'm going to see if I can get a call on that one from our race controllers, which in the sports car series, they kind of do it as a conglomerate, a collaboration amongst multiple drivers. Jordan Owens, I believe, is part of it, but he won't be able to make a call on this incident as he was part of it. Ryan Schuld on the racetrack, not going to see it, but Justin Vandermeer currently off the track, and a couple others. I believe Tyler Fody also part of that grouping, so he'll be able to dip into that as well. But absolute chaos and madness right there that took Jordan Owens and Gavin Hibbs and really set them back. And gotta wonder what the damage situation is like on these race cars as they've fallen back to 5th and 6th in class. Not where they've wanted to sit at this point. Battles on for 2nd. By the way, Richard Walsifer currently on pit lane. Gonna take 4 tires and fuel. We'll see if he stays in the race car though, as we watch him currently sitting on pit lane. Looks like he will, but that may update. Keep an eye on the pit stop sessions there on the bottom of your screen. This is an early stop as well for Walsifer as he's worked his way back onto the track. He will remain behind the wheel of that number 6 machine for Limitless Esports. Actually, no, they have retired for the day. Walsifer out of today's event. Zach Rogers still out there, so he should be able to gain a couple of positions there on the Richard Walsifer machine to move them up to 9th in GTP. We're 10 GTP cars and 8 GT3 here today, so on the smaller side of the field, or on the spectrum here today, but nonetheless, still some good racing all throughout the field as we're going to watch this battle that's starting to brew for 2nd between Ryan Schuld and Adrian Fernandez. Colin Winslow a little bit further behind. Jordan Owens right there as well, as is Gavin Hibbs. He's a good bit back, and I think he's dealing with a fair bit of damage on board that machine. We'll get an update from Lake Norman a little bit later on in regards to, first off, their thoughts on the incident and what damage they did sustain in this one, as we have a battle brewing again. This is one that we had a little bit earlier on. Mark-Paul Puttajig and Caleb Pecumer battling it out for 4th in GT3. As you see one of the Abbott Motorsports cars go on through there. That's Corey Abbott getting by. That is one of the GTP entries, as he currently sits 7th in that class. Graham Bullis going to take it to pit lane. He, of course, has some damage from that incident with Owens and Hibbs. We'll see what they opt to do, if they're going to keep Bullis in the car or make their first driver change of the day. You can see that right front a little bit crinkled. Actually, no, that's exactly what it was. So a pass-through penalty was issued by race control. That sent that 7 car down pit lane, or the 70, I should say, and he's worked his way back out now. Good call by race control. I don't think there was anything egregious in the incident. I think it was a simple driver error, but nonetheless, drivers have to be held accountable for the steering wheel that they're holding between their hands. So good call by our race controllers here today. Is Corey Abbott going to go for a crash? We'll take a look on the Robilus Photography Replay Machine. Check out robilusphoto.com for all your photography needs, as that is the 121 of Corey Abbott. Just going to lose it on mid-corner there. Goes around as we have another taker on pit road. It's Colin Winslow. So this is the first of our front-running GTPs to make his visit to pit lane. Has he received a penalty as well? I believe he may have, as he has just completed a pass-through penalty. So no pit stop for those guys. So he is going to continue back on in 6th in class, as we're watching for some battles throughout. We'll go back to Mark-Paul Puttajig and Caleb Pecumer as they continue to battle for 4th and 5th in GT3. Certain areas of the racetrack, by the way, have cleaned up just a little bit, as actually we have a very close battle here between Graham Bullis and Ryan Huckleberry. That's for 7th and 8th in GT3, but as I was mentioning, certain areas of the racetrack, the fog seems to have let up just a little bit, but still very, very heavy all throughout. As we'll look at the, wow, 100% humidity out here on the racetrack. Track temperature currently sitting at 70, so I actually think it's dropped a little bit compared to what we started the day with. So yeah, this track's got to be getting pretty slick for these drivers out here on the racetrack as they continue to try to battle it out and stay clean and green, which they've done a nice job of so far, as we're quickly approaching 2 hours to go here. 33 minutes in, just over 2 hours remaining. Shay Mitchell checking in over on the YouTube chat. Good morning, Shay. Welcome to the Solo Racing Sports Car Series. Glad to have you here in the YouTube chat. Who are you cheering for today? I know it's probably one of these two cars, Cale Pocock and Corey Abbott, that currently sits 7th and 8th in GTP respectively. As you see, Pecumer closing back in on Marc-Paul Buttigieg. That continues to be that battle for the 4th position and the closest battle on the racetrack. There is another one starting to heat up in GTP, where Adrian Fernandez closing in on Ryan Schulba. Fernandez, he forgets the corners there as he goes way off. He just set sail, we could say, as he works his way around this circuit. As you see them go on by, that's your gap between Schuld and Fernandez. Now the battle looks like it's going to be between Hibbs and Winslow a little bit further back. Colin Winslow did a pass through, closing back in now on Gavin Hibbs. We'll check that battle as well between Graham Bullis and Ryan Huckleberry. That one has spread out just a little bit further at this point in the day, but all of these battles are likely to come back at some point, especially considering we're so early in this one. And when those drivers get on cold tires, I think we're going to see chaos once again here at Interlagos as these guys continue to battle it out. We're going to go ahead by that being, I thought that was Ryan Huckleberry, but it doesn't appear to be so. That's Ivan Aguado that the GTP cars just went by. That is your GT3 leader, who has the lead now by almost 10 seconds over the Eisentech Enterprises number 77 of Cameron Rich. So a very solid start here today for the Inosis Esports Sim Ultimate entry of Ivan Aguado. Hayden Fowler sits third in the number 99 for Night Racing Blue. He's got a couple fans over in the YouTube chat, and the top three in GT3 are exactly where they started here today. And by the way, your biggest movers of the race so far, Marc-Paul Buttigieg is up 3 positions in the Octane Racing number 17. That's in GT3. And up in GTP, the Adria Esports black entry of Adrian Fernandez, the 127, also up 3 spots on the day. Some of that due to chaos that ensued not too long ago that sent Jordan Owens and Gavin Hibbs around. But if you look at the overall race leader, Ethan Stanley, he was around and backwards on lap number 1, and 25 laps later, he leads this thing by 6 seconds over Ryan Schultz. So anything can happen. It's a never say never kind of day here at Interlagos. And Chad Frankfield, if you're watching, please do not add fog like this to the Cup Series or Truck Series or any other series, because I just can't imagine certain guys navigating through this, or yourself going 3 or 4 wide down the straightaway in a one-lane racetrack. As we'll pick up our closest battle on the track, that's this one here between Gavin Hibbs and Colin Winslow. The Lake Norman entry of Hibbs was your early race leader, as you can see on the screen now. Let's take a look at the laps led, and it was 18 laps led for Gavin Hibbs before he went around just a couple of laps ago. So unfortunate for Hibbs there. He got collected. There was a GT3 car that unfortunately went for a bit of a slide there. Graham Bullis into the side of Jordan Owens, sent Owens around, and Owens into the side of Hibbs here as we're side by side. Colin Winslow going to complete that pass in the 40 Raceware entry on the Gavin Hibbs machine. So good run through there for Winslow as he's back up into the top 5 in GTP. Shay Mitchell hoping for snowstorms and hail for any upcoming elite race at Talladega. No, please no, Shay. That's a terrible idea, sir. But respect to you for at least having an idea. I guess we could say that, but no, that's a horrible idea. As we look further back, there's no real battles out there on the racetrack right now. Corey Abbott is chasing down Cale Pocock. That's one somewhat battle for 7th in GTP. Gavin Hibbs trying to chase back down Colin Winslow, but that gap spreading a little bit further. Then it comes back, kind of an accordion going on there where it's close and then it's far, and those guys just continuing to work their way around this circuit as Ethan Stanley continues to lead the way by about 7 seconds between himself and Ryan Schuld. As you can see, Adrian Fernandez in the background there trying to work his way by the 999 entry of Jesse Racimus, giving him a little flash of the lights, letting him know that, hey, the podium guys are coming on through in GTP. Jesse Racimus, by the way, currently sits 6th in GT3. Good to see him out here running with the Lake Norman Motorsports guys. He's chasing down his Lake Norman Motorsports teammate there in Caleb Pecumer, as even Aguado just went purples all around. He's going to set his quick time of the race, a 1:32.77. And you're going to see a lot of this over the next couple laps. Just watch to the right of the tower. It's going to continue to indicate their lap times as they go on through. And you're going to see a lot of purple as these guys wear down on fuel, get down to the tail end of their tank, which they should be coming up on pit stops soon in this field. We should see the first set of cars down probably within the next 10 minutes or so. So we'll keep an eye on that. And actually, just as I said that, Marc-Paul Buttigieg going to take it to pit road from 5th in GT3. So got to wonder if potentially this triggers further pit stops. We'll see if Buttigieg stays in the car, has to back up there. And out he comes. He's going to exit the race car. And we'll see who gets behind the wheel of that entry. For Sapphire Sim Sport is what it's showing as, but that, of course, not... actually, that is the team name. Yes, Sapphire Sim Sport. That is Brett Gray behind the wheel now. So he's going to work his way out onto the racetrack. So good to see another driver out in the field. That's our first driver change of today's festivities. We'll see the next set of pit stops here momentarily. We'll see who comes down. Back up front, Stanley leads the way. The battle's on for the second position as Adrian Fernandez closing in on Ryan Schuld. That's your battle for second overall, and second, of course, in GTP. Towards the tail of the field, Zach Rogers is the only other GTP car that is not currently with the rest of the field. Richard Walsifer has parked for the day, so he is out of the Interlagos event here this morning. Brett Gray working his way out on the racetrack for Sapphire Sim Sport. We'll see how he handles those cold tires as he navigates his way out onto the circuit. Very treacherous in the opening laps for these guys. And we saw it on the beginning of the race where Ethan Stanley went around. A couple other drivers had an off-track moment. Corey Abbott went around as well. Then a little bit later on, we had a couple other incidents that took place due to the looseness of the racetrack here this morning. Looks like Gray gonna kind of walk on eggshells here in his opening out lap, just to make sure that he doesn't overstep on that car. And doing a nice job here so far. That is the Octane Racing Sapphire entry there, as he's going to get past, I believe that was Jordan Owens that just got through. Yes, Owens 4th in GTP. And that was correct. The earlier penalty reports that we passed along of the 70 and the 40 entries. So Colin Winslow in the 40, the 70 of Graham Bullis, both getting drive-through penalties. And Colin Winslow actually did a great job with that penalty because he's been able to get back out in the top 5, still in a fairly decent position and not too far out of the festivities, where he can work his way back up into a pretty solid position a little bit later on. As there we go, we mentioned it, coming out on the cold tires. Brett Gray right there had an off-track moment. We'll take a look and see what happened as he worked his way down just past the Lake Norman entry. I believe that was Caleb Pecumer right there. Brett Gray just goes too deep into the corner. Keeps it off the wall, though, so really no harm done aside from losing a little bit of ground on the racetrack. He'll have to battle back to get up to Ryan Huckleberry and Graham Bullis, but we'll keep a close eye on this throughout all the pit stops here today. I'm getting some updates here from Justin Vandermarl that's passing along the penalty reports here this morning, as well as a damage report on the 54 of Jordan Owens. Yeah, you can see it right there. A little bit of right rear damage from when they slid into the Gavin Hibbs machine. By the way, that's Caleb Pocock that just went around here on the racetrack. We'll see what happened to him as we look at the Robotics Photography replay machine, and we'll watch Caleb Pocock. I believe he's just going to probably accelerate a little bit too much. No, just loses it mid-corner. That's been the loose spot here today for quite a few of these guys. And in speaking with Justin Vandermarl, I asked about the track conditions, where I said it looks a little bit slick out there, and his response was it was greasy. So these drivers definitely dealing with those greasy conditions. Again, looking at the track conditions, we're dealing with basically 100% humidity out here on the racetrack. So just picture when you're driving down the road on a hot summer day, the humidity level's really high. You can see what looks like water, but there's no water on that racetrack. That's exactly how it is for these guys. It looks like we have another taker on pit road. Potentially. No, that was just the line that they opted to use. That was the Enosis entry of Ivan Aguado, as he's got the overall race leader of Ethan Stanley going by him. So Aguado gonna lose another lap there to the GTP race leader, which is expected. There's a pretty large difference in the pace here of these guys, just so you're aware of that at home. Best lap time for Ethan Stanley, that was the previous lap there, a 1:23.86. Quick time for Ivan Aguado in GT3. He is the quickest car in that class. His time was a 1:32.7, so a 9-second difference between those guys there. By the way, Jordan Owens just went off the racetrack for a couple of seconds there. We'll take a look and see what happened to him. Looks like it was the same corner that Brett Gray had a bit of an off-track excursion. Oh, great save, though, by Owens. Nearly goes around, but gathers it back up. He's going to lock himself back in to that 4th position. Colin Winslow about 2 seconds back from him. So he's just hoping that Winslow's not able to close that gap and get back up to them in this battle. But nonetheless, good morning to everyone tuned in at home. Again, let me know where you're watching from, who you're cheering for here today, and I've also mentioned it as well. Our next upcoming race in this series, June the 14th, 24 hours of France. So we're going to Le Mans, and it's going to be one heck of a race. We're going to try to carry all 24 hours right here on the Elite Racing Network. And then after that, another sprint coming up at Sebring in July on the July 12th, followed by 4 hours of Spa in September. We're going to go to Algarve International Circuit in Portugal for a sprint on October 25th, and we'll wrap up the season with 6 hours of Daytona on December the 6th. Shout out to the guys that put this series on, man. They've done a great job. Ryan Schuld, Justin Vandermarl, Jordan Owens, everyone else involved. I believe Tyler Fode has his hands on this series a little bit as well, as Cale Pocock goes off track once again. Just a rough outing here this morning for Abbott Motorsports, but still a while to go in this one. Another pit stop, another driver change. We'll see what these guys do. And one thing to kind of take note of now, it's a 2-hour and 40-minute race. We're not overly far away from the halfway point, about 30 minutes out. There's only one driver change so far, and that comes in the GT3 field. So can these guys stretch it to a one-stop race? I don't think so. I think they're still going to be short, but at that point, do you opt to maybe leave a driver in for a double stint and go short with your second driver? Or I'm not sure. There's a couple options on the table for these guys as we watch the battle for fourth in class here in GTP. Colin Winslow closing in on Jordan Owens. We'll see what happens here over the next couple laps. I'm going to try to get some fuel numbers as well from Justin Vandermerle, as he is kind of my eyes in the sky, eyes in the car, I guess, here today, as he's expected to get behind the wheel a little bit later on. Owens and Winslow going by the second place GT3 car of Cameron Rich. And there we go. Yeah, we're closing in on pit stops. Should be coming up around lap number 40 or so. So we'll see what happens there. A couple of these guys going a little bit quicker, might be using a little bit more fuel. We've seen Ethan Stanley absolutely bombing it here today. Jesse Racines just went off the track. He gathers it back up, able to continue on in the triple line from Lake Norman Motorsports. So expect to see Stanley, Schuld, Fernandez, Owens, and company down pit road here over the next couple laps. And looks like the sun's starting to appear just a little bit in certain areas. That fog continuing to let up a little bit more as the day goes on, which is fantastic news, because then we can actually start seeing some of the incidents going on the racetrack as we follow along with Ethan Stanley. Oh man, that got crazy as he closes in. I believe that was Brett Gray right there, switching lanes just ahead of him. That got a little bit sketchy and not what we were hoping to see. As we see a couple battles brewing again. That's Ryan Schuld, and right behind him, Adrian Fernandez. That's your battle for second in GTP, and that got a little close again with the 70 of Graham Bullis. So Bullis just not in the right place at certain points as these guys battle it out. Battles on with Owens and Winslow, as Winslow going to make that pass on Jordan Owens. Move Colin Winslow up to position number 4. Jordan Owens going to slot into that 5th spot just behind him, as we're just watching for battles throughout the race. A lot of these guys have continued to find a slot on the track that they're comfortable in, making themselves a little bit of a bubble, not necessarily having to duke it out with everyone on each and every lap. So far so good as we get back up to Schuld and Fernandez battling it out for second in GTP. Ethan Stanley has no idea that this is going on behind him, but if he did, he would absolutely love it, as they're just allowing him to pull away a little bit more each and every lap. Now up to almost 11 seconds between first and second in GTP. Schuld back in the second spot, Fernandez third. Corey Abbott has just had a crash on the racetrack. Let's see what has happened to him. He's waiting for an opportunity to rejoin the racetrack, but let's look at the Robilus Photography Replay Machine, robilusphoto.com for all your photography needs. From storms to sports and everything in between, Mark's got you covered with a flash, as Corey Abbott just went around mid-corner. That unfortunately has happened. And looking at that replay, Adrian Fernandez just made the pass on Ryan Schuld for the second spot. We'll take a look here. Fernandez at the tail of the line as these guys work their way on past. I believe that was Brett Gray right there as well, as Fernandez closes in on Schuld and makes that deep dive to the right side. Schuld lets off, lets him go on by, and he's going to slot in to that third position overall here in GTP. 11.3 is now the gap between Stanley and Fernandez for your top two positions. Dominic Wright chiming in. I agree, Dom. It's going to be very interesting strategy towards the tail of the race as we ride on board here with a couple of these guys. We'll go on board with Jordan Owens briefly here as he closes in on Colin Winslow once again. He can see Winslow up the road, and they're about 22 seconds behind Ryan Schuld, and a little bit crazy to think almost 30 seconds back from the third place car. So 40 seconds or so behind your race leader is the guy that dominated the start of this race in Gavin Hibbs. So just unfortunate for Hibbs getting caught up in that incident, but with a long way to go in this one, I don't think you can quite count him out yet. He's always a strong competitor and should be one to keep an eye on throughout this event here today, as once again, as mentioned, closing in on the first round of pit stops here today and our first commercial break, which will come up at the conclusion of that opening pit stop there. Brett Gray just had an off-track moment in GT3. He gathers it back up, able to continue on. As let's go further back and take a quick look in GT3. Not much going on there. Those guys just kind of riding along, and they've all got pretty big gaps between them. Aguado leads by 12 seconds over Rich. Rich has 10 seconds on Fowler, 32 seconds back to Pecumer, another 14 back to Racimus, 10 back to Bullis, 15 to Huckleberry, and then an entire minute back to Brett Gray. So these guys just really spreading out as Ethan Stanley comes to pit lane. That is our first big stopper of the day here in GTP. He's going to come to pit lane. He's out of the car. There he goes. Bye-bye. And hello to Tyler Fode as Fode gets behind the wheel of the 941. Adrian Fernandez going to come to pit lane as well. And I believe Fernandez may stay in the car. We'll see. I've not seen a driver change yet on that machine. As Fode just going to wrap up his pit stop here, tighten those belts, make sure they're nice and good before he works his way back out onto the circuit here at Interlagos. Fernandez still on pit lane, still in the car, but I would expect to see another few guys down here momentarily, including Schuld, Winslow, Owens, and Hibbs, but we'll see when they opt to make that stop. As Fode now comes back out onto the circuit, he's going to go for his first run here of the day. Caleb Pocock going to come down pit lane, so another stop for GTP. We'll see if he gets out of the race car here and hands it over to, I believe, Logan Key, going to get behind the wheel of that entry. Oh my gosh. He smashed into the garage stall. Caleb Pocock might need some pit practice, but as he ends up in the garage wall, he's going to get out. Logan Key is going to take the key to that ignition and get behind the wheel. As now Ryan Schuld comes down pit road. We'll see who gets behind the wheel of that entry. I'm not sure if it's Justin Fortner waiting on the wall here today or if it's bad Chad Frankenfield opting to get into this car. We'll see in just a moment. Colin Winslow also coming down pit lane. And I was wrong. Yes, it's Hunter Smith behind the wheel of the number 4 entry. Colin Winslow going to come to his pit box. We'll see who gets into that car. Gavin Hibbs also down pit lane. So Jordan Owens going to take over the race lead. Richie Hearn going to get into the 40 machine for his first stint of the day, as that relieves Colin Winslow. Gavin Hibbs getting into the pit lane as well. We'll see who gets behind the wheel of that car. Justin Wadsworth, so Wadsy getting behind the wheel for his first run of today's session. As Hunter Smith, oh my gosh, he's wrecked exiting the pits. Ryan Schuld gonna give him a little smack here in just a moment, as we'll watch Hunter Smith exit his pit box and essentially wreck it right away. As yeah, he doesn't even, I think he just gets past the cone and goes around. So those tires are now warm. Doesn't have to worry about the warm-up period on his tires. As Graham Bullis, he may have taken another pass through there. I'm not sure. No, he took his pit stop. So Graham Bullis has pit. And now here comes Jordan Owens. So I would expect to see Justin Vandermarl behind the wheel of the Brake Hard Field Up Racing number 54 entry here in just a brief second. As Owens brings it to the attention of his pit crew. By the way, Cale Pocock has given way, like I mentioned, to Logan Key. Corey Abbott still out on the racetrack. He's likely to inherit the race lead here in just a moment's time as Owens takes it to his pit box. We'll keep our eyes peeled and see if Justin Vandermeer gets behind the wheel, and so far doesn't look like it. Corey Abbott going to take it to his pit box. We'll see who he gives way to. I believe Dominic Wright going to get behind the wheel. Yes, he will. We already spoke with Dom here today, and he is now behind the wheel of that car. Jordan Owens still in the 54 machine, but likely getting some damage repaired at this point in that 54 car. As we'll go back out onto the racetrack, though. Tyler Fode leads the way in the number 941 for Lake Norman, and Jordan Owens going to come back out, so he's going to double stint to start today's race, and I'm on board with this. I definitely I thought that would be the way to go for these guys here today, and so far so good. We're still a good bit away from GT3 coming down, probably another 10 minutes or so, I would say. Usually they're able to run a little bit longer, as Logan Key gonna have a moment. He gathers it back up and is able to continue on. So your top three as of right now: Tyler Fode, Hunter Smith, and Adrian Fernandez, the top three in GTP. GT3, the top four is exactly how they started. Evan Aguado, Cameron Rich, Hayden Fowler, and Caleb Pecumer, all 1, 2, 3, and 4 out here on the racetrack in GT3. So doing a nice job so far. By the way, a couple guys have gone a lap down, it looks like, here in GTP. Justin Wadsworth in the 961 has lost some position there to his team owner Tyler Fode, and Logan Key gonna lose a bit of track positioning there as well. As we come up on the conclusion of our number one of activities here today, we're going to step aside. When we come back, we'll take you through the second hour of today's race here from Interlagos. It's the Brazilian GP on the Elite Racing Network in the Solo Racing Sports Car Series. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
3 years of sellout crowds, 3 years of edge-of-your-seat action, 3 years of jaw-dropping finishes. Worldwide Technology Raceway has rocked the world of NASCAR, and now NASCAR is giving us another reason to celebrate. The 2025 NASCAR Cup Series Championship Playoffs are coming Sunday, September 7th, 2025. Just when you thought the racing couldn't get any more intense, now every single lap matters. One wrong move could be the difference between elimination and being crowned the king. The Enjoy Illinois 300, the Confluence Music Festival, the NASCAR Cup Series Playoffs, and for the first time in 15 years, the NASCAR Xfinity Series on Saturday, September 6th. Don't be on the outside looking in. See history being made in your own backyard. Go to www.raceway.com for the hottest ticket of the year.
Absolute chaos has ensued here while we were away. Hunter Smith has crashed the race car. He has taken it to pit lane after a major incident took place here. Let's see what happened to Hunter Smith. We're going to try to zoom in on this one. The front end of that machine absolutely gone. Not sure what happened to Hunter, but we'll find out here in just a moment. Justin Wadsworth also having a major moment on the racetrack. Oh my gosh! That's what happened right there. Justin Wadsworth had a moment, crashed the car, and something that's likely to be deemed a very unsafe rejoin just took place. He came back on the track and took out the Hunter Smith machine. Oh man, major damage for those guys. Both of them on pit lane, and that's not what the Little Eagle Warriors for Peace team was hoping for at this point. Neither is the Lake Norman entry, as they've taken it to pit lane. Both cars rather heavily damaged. By the way, we've had a driver change in GT3. Caleb Pecumer, after a phenomenal opening stint, gave way to Dylan Haver. Haver back out here on the racetrack for the first time today, currently sitting there in position number 6. I want to see if we can maybe get a word with Pecumer here in just a moment. We'll let them have a couple of laps just so Dylan can get used to the car. Caleb can give him any sort of updates he might need, and we'll let them complete that pit cycle as well. As Jesse Racines comes down pit lane, we'll see who he gives way to in the Lake Norman 999. A good opening run for Jesse as well. As he gets out, Austin Inabnet gets in. Inabnet had a fantastic run earlier on in practice and qualifying, so good option there. As Ivan Aguado stays out, Cameron Rich opts not to. He's going to come down pit lane. I would expect to see him give way possibly to Drew Eisenman in that entry. Ryan Huckleberry coming down as well. I would expect potentially a driver change here, as Richard Garcia gets behind the wheel, the 77. Let's see who's behind the wheel now of the number 5 for the Venom Racing team. It is none other than Zach Huckle Evans, as he gives way, or as he gets behind the wheel for the first time today. He, of course, subbing in for Dave Huckleberry, as Dave opting to sit the day out here today and give way to his young drivers in Zach Huckle Evans and Ryan Huckleberry, as they are going to give themselves a run here this morning. We'll wait for Ivan Aguado to come down. I would expect that shortly. Oh, contact between the Richard Hearn machine and the GT3 leader of Ivan Aguado. So very aggressive there by Richard Hearn, as I believe we're going to see Ivan Aguado down pit lane this time. We'll see if a driver change is coming up for these guys in GT3. This is where it's going to get interesting, because if they go another hour and 5, which will take them to half an hour to go, you go about a half tank on fuel, take your tires, maybe even not take tires, and go out there and just run it to the finish. It's going to be very interesting to see the strategies for these guys. As Aguado comes out, Francisco Barrenuevo gets behind the wheel, and he's going to inherit the race lead here in GT3. Hayden Fowler also down pit lane. We'll see who he gives way to, as I believe he's going to be due for a driver change as well, as he's going to miss his box at first, so not the way that he was hoping to start that pit stop, as Fowler goes up on jacks. So far, still staying in the race car is Hayden Fowler, as Francisco Barrenuevo goes out onto the racetrack, so he is going to continue to pace the field here in GT3, as Fowler still in the car. I believe they're going to go for an option of a double stint there in the 99 camp. The Knight Racing team. Hunter Smith still on pit lane, dealing with that damage, unfortunately, that was picked up a little bit earlier on, as Fowler does exit pit lane. So Hayden Fowler going to stay out there on the racetrack. Let's see if we can have a quick word with Caleb Pecumer, who had a good run here. Caleb, it's Robert up in the booth. You get a copy?
Yes, sir. How's it going, Robert?
Very, very well here so far. You had a great opening stint behind the wheel of the 959, now giving way to Dylan Haver. Why don't you walk us through the opening stint for you out there?
Yeah, man, the beginning was pretty good. I feel like the pace was just slightly off compared to the McLarens. They're definitely overpowered on the straights. I mean, I can't even catch them in their draft. But with that being said, the qualifying, I mean, overall, I'm not entirely happy with the performance of our car as of right now. I mean, I'd like to be a little closer to the leaders, but the car was clean whenever I brought it in, and we were keeping it together, and we're just running clean laps at this point with no pressure. So it got a little hectic when the GTPs blew up on us at first. But yeah, we're just running our pace now, seeing where we'll end up in the end.
Yeah, it was absolutely chaotic when the GTPs were trying to cycle through. We saw some incidents take place as well, where a couple of the GTPs got wiped out after contact with one of the GT3s, the 70 there of Graham Bullis a little bit earlier on, including one of your teammates, Gavin Hibbs. But what was the fog like out there? It looks pretty heavy on the broadcast here so far, but so far dissipating a little bit.
Yeah, it looks like the fog's getting a little better, but yeah, in the beginning when the GTPs, you know, were getting in the mix and we could barely see anything out of our windshield, it was definitely an experience. So, yeah, obviously Gavin and Justin, they were pretty upset whenever that happened, but they'll be back. I'm confident that they'll be back, so.
Absolutely, and before we let you go here, Caleb, still a long way to go in this one. Expecting another pit stop just past the 2-hour mark. Can we expect to see you back behind the wheel of this car, or are you done for the day?
I believe I'm done for the day, unless an audible gets thrown in there. But Dylan, he's put in some practice laps at this track, so as long as he can keep it together, I'm confident that he can do some damage to the cars up front as far as lap time goes. And I'll be here if he needs me. So. Yeah, I don't think I'll get back in the car.
Well, it was a good run nonetheless, and next time out, we're going to be in the 24-hour race at Le Mans. That's going to be one heck of a show, but Caleb will get you back down to your team, give Dylan a good run there, and see what you guys can do. Maybe get up there and fight for a podium.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining me. That was Caleb Pecumer. Had a good opening run. He's kind of downplaying it a little bit, but you know, when you're going against some of these guys like Aguado and Cameron Rich and Hayden Fowler, they're very tough to beat. Those are very strong competitors, and so far, you know, Lake Norman has done a great job of at least keeping them honest and keeping themselves in a half decent spot to maybe get up there and compete even a little bit. But for now, they can race for bragging rights amongst teammates as well, with Dylan Haver and Austin and Abnett both out there on the racetrack and duking it out. As we're going to run one more quick ad here that we didn't get a chance to run earlier on, but let's hear from our friends at Blue Egg Marketing, the marketing department for small businesses.
Rev up your business with Blue Egg, your marketing peak crew. Turbocharge your lead generation with experienced drivers that can navigate the competitive track to connecting with your customers. With Blue Egg, you're always in the pole position, leading your brand toward victory lane. Don't spin your wheels, accelerate success with Blue Egg, fueling small businesses to win big. Accelerate success with Blue Egg, fueling small businesses to win big. Fueling big. To win big. Blue Egg. Fueling small businesses to win big. Oh, big. To win big, you're always in the pole position, leading your brand toward victory lane. Don't spin your wheels, accelerate success with Blue Egg, fueling small businesses to win it big. Win it big.
That was our friends at Blue Egg Marketing, fueling small businesses to win big. As we got a couple other people joining the YouTube chat, we got some people cheering for Enosis Esports. Guys, that's a pretty good day here so far for Enosis Esports. That, of course, has Francisco Bernuevo behind the wheel now, as he's done a fantastic job so far, as did Ivan Aguado in that opening stint. They currently lead GT3 by about 14 seconds over Richard Garcia for Eisentech Enterprises. Cameron Rich started the car for them today and had a solid opening run as well. Hayden Fowler currently holding on to third in the GT3 class for Night Racing Blue. And so far, they're not feeling too blue, as they're holding on to one of those podium positions by quite a margin over Lake Norman Motorsports' Dylan Haver and Graham Bullis in the 70 machine, not too far behind us. We have a battle starting to brew a little bit for third here in GTP. Jordan Owens closing in on Richie Hearn. Hearn, of course, the former IndyCar winner, holding on to that fourth position just behind, or just the third spot just ahead of Jordan Owens, just behind Adrian Fernandez. Words are tough here today, guys. We're over in Brazil. I'm an English guy trying to sound Portuguese, and it's quite the day here today. Just kind of running through the field a little bit. No battles really going on at this point. Everyone's kind of found where they belong on the track, found a bit of a home and a bubble to run their laps out, kind of play it safe here so far. An Abnett closing in a little bit on the Leviathan machine of Graham Bullis, but still a bit of a gap there. So these guys not battling too hard. You know, we got Zach Huckle-Evans back out here, currently sitting 7th in the class, about 30 seconds behind Austin and Abnett. He's going to try to get up there and battle it out with those guys. I want to see if maybe we can get a word with the team principal there from Venom Racing in Dave Huckleberry. Let's see if we can maybe pull him in for a quick chat. Hey, Dave, it's Robert up in the booth. You get a copy?
I got you, Robert.
There we go. I didn't know that we had you there, Dave. That's, of course, the team principal for Venom Racing out here. What's your thoughts on the day so far, Dave?
Well, we're glad it didn't rain, even though we practiced a lot in rain. We were real happy to see it dry. Zach's in the car now, and I did see the name you used for him. I thought that was pretty funny there. But everything's
Zach
going okay.
Evans. Yeah, I mean, you guys are one of the few cars that's been able to dodge some of the chaos here today. It's been eventful out there on the racetrack.
Yeah, not a huge car count, but yeah, those GTPs can get a little aggressive when they go by the slower cars, can't they?
Absolutely, and you know, I've talked to a couple other teams. We expect another pit stop just past the 2-hour mark there. Do you know what the plan is currently for the driver lineup? Is it expected to see Zach go to the end, or will we see Ryan back behind the wheel, or maybe even yourself hopping in there?
Definitely not me. What we're probably going to do is just do about a half a tank and leave Zach in the car. So,
well, definitely
that should get us to the end.
Definitely makes sense. And next race, Dave, that's the big one coming up in about 2 months. We're going to do the 24 hours of Le Mans over there. Do you know what the plan is as of yet for Venom Racing? How many drivers you're going to have behind the wheel? What the plan is so far?
So far, I think we have 4 for sure. We have Zach, of course, who's racing today. We got Bojo, Ray Bracey will be joining us. We also have Adam Bobrake, who's new to iRacing, so I've given him a couple of months to get up to speed to be able to do a couple stints. So we may have 5.
Well, should be a good day then, and a good night and everything else in between, because that's going to be a long, long day. Going to be a long broadcast over here too, 24 hours. Oof. That's tiring.
Yeah, you might need some help.
I'm going to need some Red Bull. That's what I need. Well, we're going to let you get back down to the pit wall there. I know you're a busy team principal at Venom Racing today, trying to keep these guys on the track, keep them positive, and keep the race going as we're approaching halfway here in about 2 minutes.
All right. Thanks, Robert.
Thanks, Dave. Have a good day. That's Dave Huckleberry, team principal of Venom Racing and principal of the Elite Racing League as well. He has to send us to detention sometimes, and man, it's pretty accurate over there. He's quite the guy. We all love Dave Huckleberry over here. Even Chad, even though sometimes Chad makes Dave a little bit mad. As we watch this battle brewing for third, Richie Hearn, Jordan Owens duking it out. Coming up to the halfway point here momentarily in about a minute and a half. So already an hour and 20 into today's 2 hour and 40 session. Pretty good start here so far. We've seen some chaos. We've seen some drivers just not having a good day. As taking a look at the YouTube chat, I see William White over there. Hey William, come over to the Discord channel. Let's have a quick chat, and we'll talk about what we got going on here. Ethan Stanley asking for more cars for the 24. Yeah, let's hope so. Cameron Rich over there as well, cheering on the battle they had for the first couple of laps. But yeah, if William White's around, come hang out, hop in the Discord channel. We'll chat a little bit. As I'm very glad to see that this fog is going away just a little bit, as we saw Brett Gray have a bit of an off-track moment right there as Richie Hearn and Jordan Owens went on by. They're okay. They're able to continue on and not have too much of a problem out here on the racetrack. This is the closest battle we have going on by quite a margin. Zach Rogers, by the way, just had his own off-track moment. He currently sits 5 laps down to the leaders as Owens makes that deep dive to the inside of Hearn looking to go back on him here, not able to do it, as Jordan Owens going to clear and work his way back onto the podium for the first time essentially since that earlier incident that took place with Gavin Hibbs. But here comes Richie Hearn going to driver's right, trying to get there, not quite able to do it that time. He's going to single file back into line, and we'll continue looking clean, looking green, and continuing along here at the halfway point. Man, we got a double dose of Gavins over here in the YouTube chat. That's a lot of Gavins going on over here. I see Gavin Hibbs, though. Maybe we'll have a quick word with Mr. Hibbs if he's hanging out over in the YouTube chat. Let's go ahead and pull him in for a quick talk here. Gavin Hibbs, is Robert up in the booth? You get a copy?
Yes, I do. I got you, Robert.
Man, you guys had a very strong start, leading the first 18 laps or so, and then getting caught in that fluke incident with one of the GT3 cars and Jordan Owens. What were the thoughts going through your head, the PG thoughts going through your head when that incident took place?
PG, my thoughts, man, I wasn't really expecting that. That was for sure. Once I was biding my time there, and then, going into the braking zone at turn 1, I, was just, again, biding my time with the GT3 traffic, and I glanced up for a split second at the virtual mirror, and then I just see Jordan at like a 45-degree angle with smoke, and it's just very unfortunate with that incident there. It knocked the left rear suspension out just a little bit, not too bad, and then just a couple corners later, I had an incident with the 40, dealing again with GT3 traffic. Had to deal with a minute of damage, and then, Justin had a moment there with the Hunter there. We had to serve a drive-through and then another about 6 minutes of damage. So sitting six laps down, not ideal, but we're still out just logging laps and hopefully improving positions.
That's all you can really hope for. And, we've talked to a couple other drivers about this one. Next race out in the series is the 24 Hours of Le Mans. What are the preparations like for an event like that? Is it different than these sprints that we come into like here today at Brazil?
Definitely for sure. It's more of just, making sure, who's, making sure everyone's on the same page, whether it would be, stints or what time they should be here, getting ready, in the team channels. Compared to these sprints, I wasn't planning on running the series at all. And then yesterday I got a message from Justin, saying he needs to fill in for today. And for a guy who's hasn't really raced the GTPs and since this update, it's took a good chunk of timing last night just to get used to this car. And for a track like Le Mans coming up and it being a 24-hour race, you really got to put laps in. I'd say you have to be 3-4 times more prepared for a race like that, especially with it being a long endurance race and just 2.5 hour sprints. But it's definitely way different than what we're doing today.
And now that you're out of the car, still a while to go in this one. Can we expect to see you back behind the wheel before the end of this one here today, or are you done for the day?
Looking at the fuel right now and the time left, I think there's going to be enough time for me to get it in, but it would probably be like 15-20 minutes. So, we'll never know. But I would expect to see myself back in at the very end.
Perfect. We're going to get you back down to your team and help guide Justin through this stint here. But thanks for joining us here, Gavin.
Yeah, thank you so much, Robert.
That's Gavin Hibbs, a driver of the Lake Norman Motorsports 961. And what really impresses me is the fact that, he mentioned that he was just asked to do this last night, and to come out here with very little practice and to lead the first 18 laps against some very solid competitors is really impressive. And for a team like Lake Norman to have a guy like Gavin Hibbs available to them for these sports car races, the upcoming 24 hours, again, mentioning it, that's huge. And I could really expect to see him helping a team contend for victories if they keep him around all season long and give him the opportunities to eat out here on the racetrack, because he was eating good there in those first 18 laps. As we're watching a little bit of a battle here for third in GTP, let's take a look at the lap time battles here. Jordan Owens was quicker than Richie Hearn on 57 and 58, but Hearn was able to gain all that back and more on lap number 59, going about a half-second quicker than that of the Jordan Owens machine. So going to be quite interesting to see what these guys do over the next handful of laps here in this battle. But nonetheless, so far so good, as we see Jordan Owens cycling his way through there for Fueled Up Racing. And he's done a really fantastic job here so far. And again, for those of you tuned in at home, let me know who you're cheering for, where you're watching from, and what brings you here today. Obviously, a lot of new teams out here that we don't get to see all the time in the Elite Racing League, be that in our Truck Series, Cup Series, Xfinity, ARCA, IndyCar, whatever it may be. But it's nice to see so many great people hanging out here with us. I'm going to step aside here for just a couple of moments. We'll leave you with some action here on the racetrack. We'll keep it live, but I'll be back in just a couple of minutes. And I'm back here. Just taking a look out on the racetrack. Tyler Fode leads Adrian Fernandez and Jordan Owens in GTP. Then down in GT3, Francisco Bernuevo leads over Richard Garcia and Hayden Fowler. That's your top three here in GT3. As Cale Pocock just had himself a bit of a moment. He's able to gather it back up and continues on as we approach the final hour of today's festivities. Just over an hour, or just under an hour and 10 minutes to go. Dylan Haver holding on to fourth in GT3 ahead of Graham Bullis. Bullis trying to chase him down. There's a bit of a gap between those guys. Pocock going to go around again, it just showed, but nonetheless, he is okay. Zach Rogers has worked his way up to 8th in GTP, so he's been able to gather some ground. Zach Huckle-Evans holding on to the 8th position, currently 7 seconds, now 8 seconds behind Brett Gray, who holds on to 7th in GT3. That's Fody, Fernandez, Owens, your top three. Hearn and Wright, the top five. So Dominic Wright doing a nice job. We talked to Dom earlier. Now let's go ahead and talk to, well, we'll see if we can talk to his co-driver in Corey Abbott. Let's see. Hey, Corey, it's Robert up in the booth. You get a copy? I think Corey may have stepped away. We'll get him back down to his team there. And we'll try a little bit later on and see if we can get a word with him. We'll see now, though, if we can maybe chat with Jesse Racines, who had a great opening run in the 999 for Lake Norman. Jesse Racines, it's Robert up in the booth. You get a copy?
Sure do.
We saw you have a really solid opening run there in the 999 car, now giving way to Austin and Abnett. Why don't you walk us through that opening run and how to feel out there?
Car's a little snug. Definitely off pace from the top 3 or 4 guys there, but yeah, I mean it was interesting. I mean, I don't do a lot of road racing, so when I kind of asked Tyler if he had an open seat, it was just more to get some seat time in to get a little more comfortable on road courses that might help out in other series as well. But yeah, I mean, it was a good run, nice fun. A little bit foggy now that the sun's out. I'm kind of curious to see how the car will react when I get back in it.
So the plan is to get back behind the wheel of that 999 car before the end of the day today?
Yeah, we'll probably swap out again on the next pit stop, and then I'll finish off the rest of the race.
So definitely a solid plan there. And you know, you mentioned the sun being out. The track temperature has gone up 10 degrees. So we were 70 earlier, now sitting at 80. And the humidity has gone down from 100% humidity down to 92 with a bit more wind out there as well. So definitely going to be different track conditions. You can see it in the handling of these cars as well. It doesn't seem as sketchy as what you guys had at the start of the race for today's festivities here at Brazil. But what'd you find was the biggest challenge in that opening stint? Was it dealing with the GTPs working their way through, or was it that maybe unsettled feeling of the racetrack?
Yeah, so at the very beginning, I mean, right off the bat on the grid, I mean, it was just, the track was a little tighter than it was when we were doing practice. So I don't know if that had a lot to attribute with the cooler temp and the fog or what was going on, but that first time the GTPs caught us, and the like second or third, fourth, fifth in the GT3 class in the GTPs was a little hairy. I mean, that was kind of scary for a little bit.
Yeah, it definitely seems like it would have been a little bit sketchy out there. But looking ahead on the season, can we expect to see you back behind the wheel, this 999 car, maybe looking ahead to Le Mans in a month or two?
Yeah, so I'm on for the full schedule. I missed the first week because my wife was having surgery. So, but yeah, I will be filling the seat for the remaining of the season.
Definitely good to hear. And you know, we often see your son Jaden out on the racetrack as well. Can we expect to see him at some point this season in this series, or is this just not his cup of tea?
Yeah, no, he's 100% hands off on the road course stuff. I tried to convince him to do a GT3 Corvette with me, and he had no interest. So that's why I asked Tyler if he had an open seat or not.
Well, definitely a solid team to align with here in this series. We'll let you get back down to the team, work with Austin a little bit, help him through this segment. But thanks for joining us here, Jesse.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Jesse Racimas, co-driver of the 999 there for Lake Norman Motorsports. So far, sitting 6th in class in GT3. Doing a nice job here so far. As we jump back up front, it is Lake Norman leading the way. That's Tyler Fody out front in the 941. Of course, Fody, the winningest driver in Elite Racing League history, continuing to stack up those victories. I think he's listening or something. He's flashing his lights out there, trying to say, hey, what's up, boys? As he's going to work his way up and try to get by a little bit of lap traffic just ahead of him there. That's the Octane 17 as Graham Bullis going to take it to pit lane. We'll see if the driver change comes this time. They have not yet changed, and well, there's minimum drive time that's going to come into play. So Graham Bullis in the 70 going to take it to pit lane. Let's see if he stays behind the wheel or if he opts to get out. He will come out. Logan Shea now behind the wheel of that entry. Logan Shea, a very familiar name here in the Elite Racing League. So good to see Logan back out there on the racetrack as well. So Tyler Fody still leading this one overall. Francisco Bernuevo leads in GT3, and so far so good for these guys. You look throughout the field, there's not really been anyone that's had much to say for Lake Norman here this afternoon, from Gavin Hibbs to Tyler Fody, Ethan Stanley, everyone that's been behind the wheel for those GTP cars. It's been all Lake Norman so far, and if they hadn't had the earlier incident, there was potential for Lake Norman to be running 1-2 in this session, and I would expect Jordan Owens to be up in that fight as well, but that damage setting him back just a little bit in this fight here today. But nonetheless, a good run by these guys. Let's take a look at Logan Shea on his outlap. We've seen some very sketchy moments in the field here for these guys, especially when they do come out on those fresh tires. So just watch for Shea. Hopefully, for his sake, he's able to keep it clean, keep it green, and not have to worry too much about any potential issues out there on the racetrack. And I'm going to say we're probably closing in on about 10 laps until pit stops again for GTP. What could be their final stops of the day. So we'll see if we get any driver changes there. You may see Ethan Stanley back behind the wheel of the 941, unless Tyler Fody slated to go to the end, but that is still to be determined here. An hour and 40 minutes in, 1 hour to go. We're going to step aside once again, take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll take you through towards the closing stages of today's Brazilian GP on ERN. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with solo sports car racing here from Brazil.
3 years of sellout crowds, 3 years of edge-of-your-seat action, 3 years of jaw-dropping finishes. Worldwide Technology Raceway has rocked the world of NASCAR, and now NASCAR is giving us another reason to celebrate. The 2025 NASCAR Cup Series Championship playoffs are coming Sunday, September 7th, 2025. Just when you thought the racing couldn't get any more intense, now every single lap matters. One wrong move could be the difference between elimination and being crowned the king. The Enjoy Illinois 300, the Confluence Music Festival, the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs, and for the first time in 15 years, the NASCAR Xfinity Series on Saturday, September 6th. Don't be on the outside looking in. See history being made in your own backyard. Go to www.raceway.com for the hottest ticket of the year.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
And we are back here at Interlagos for the Brazilian GP here in the Elite Racing Network. We've just had a pass for the 14th position. Zach Rogers able to work his way by. He's one of those GTPs that had early issues, fell to the rear of the field, and has worked his way back up. By the way, Francisco Bernuevo putting a GTP between himself and second place GT3 entry of Richard Garcia, as Justin Wadsworth gonna fall into that 7th spot, or the 8th overall spot, I should say. As let's actually take a look at the overall scoreboard right now. Bernuevo currently sitting 7th overall. That is good enough for first in GT3, as Wadsworth behind him. Garcia, Fowler, Javier, and Abnett, Rogers, Gray, Shea, Uncle Evans, and Smith, and of course Richard Walsifer also there towards the rear of the field after his early issues unfortunately put him quite a bit back. Let's take a look at the last time these guys came down pit road. And up top, lap number 38 was the last time they pit. So based off of this, we could be within about 2 laps of the next pit stop for some of these drivers, as we take a look at Ryan Schuld hanging out in the interview room. Guys, that means we're about to have a word with the Little Eagle driver. Let's go ahead and pull him in. Hey, Ryan, it's Robert up in the booth. You get a copy?
Loud and clear.
Unfortunate, some issues there early on for you guys, but walk us through your day so far.
Yeah, day went okay. Nothing too crazy until it kind of didn't go okay, but got off to a decent start. Fortunately, had some issues getting off pit lane first, then got into it with Wadsworth there, but, you know, tough break, but still turning some laps, trying to get ready for the big one in a couple months.
Yeah, definitely going to be a pretty crazy race there in about 2 months' time at Le Mans. But from the administrator point of view, what are your thoughts on the race here so far today? Are you happy with the way things are going?
Yeah, I think it's been okay. I think we had some like 8 reviews in round 1 that yielded 5 penalties, and we're at 4 reviews in 3 today. So been a little bit cleaner, I suppose, which is good. Believe me, Bannermaro Fodi would rather be as little involved as possible, so I appreciate everyone for the most part giving each other plenty of space.
Yeah, everyone's done a good job. And just looking at the race car out here, you got some good partners on the side of that. Why don't you tell us a little bit about them?
Yeah, so shout out to Warriors for Peace. They've been a part of kind of Little Eagle Racing for a few years now. They're a local nonprofit in Indy that it's kind of near and dear to me, so it's always cool to have them on the car and do what I can to promote that a little bit. So just appreciate all of them. PRI Hoosier 500 as well, not necessarily on our IMSA car here, but certainly involved in some other things coming down the line, which will be cool. And, you know, just can't thank them. Also Solo Racing for sponsoring this, you in the booth, making this whole thing go.
Well, Ryan, best of luck the rest of the day, and we look forward to seeing you in a couple months at Le Mans.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
You too. That's Ryan Schuld, co-driver the number 4 for Little Eagle Racing. And while we were talking to Ryan, we had a couple of driver changes. Hayden Fowler out of the car, done for the day. Jennifer McDonald behind the wheel of that machine. And Brett Gray down pit lane. So he's going to get back behind the wheel of that number 17 machine. We'll continue on. Richard Garcia, has he pit? He is not. I thought Richard Garcia came down, but no, he did not. We will continue to monitor for some upcoming pit stops amongst these drivers as we see Tyler Fode closing in on Richard Garcia, the driver of the number 77 Eisentech Enterprises GT3 McLaren. The McLarens, we've heard this numerous times today, the McLarens are beastly out here. They have some great straight line speed, and that's really helped them. And we see it with Bernuevo and Garcia, both the top 2 here in GT3 today, and nobody else has really been close. Jennifer McDonald out there in the Corvette, currently sitting 3rd in GT3. As again, to point out here, folks, we should be coming up on the first set of pit stops, or second set of pit stops, I should say, amongst these GTP cars. We are right on the button of when they pit last time, so watch for some activity down pit lane here shortly with just under an hour to go. And if anyone does opt to do any driver changes, it'll definitely be coming up here shortly, as Ethan Stanley a couple minutes ago said they're about 7 laps out. Gavin Higgins wants to take part in the 24, so if you're looking for a driver, reach out to him. He'll join you, maybe neighbor Pete too. If not, you'll just have a neighbor on the pit box cheering for you. But Gavin Higgins looking for an opportunity to get behind the wheel for the 24 coming up in 2 months' time. That, of course, will take place on June the 14th. That is going to be a good one. And again, we're going to try to stream all 24 hours if possible. Might be tough, as we have our first taker here in GTP, Adrian Fernandez coming down pit lane. I would expect a final driver change to take place here. Fernandez out, Aaron Brown in. Pit change there for those drivers. Fode and Owens still out on the racetrack. Hearn out there as well. So Brown, the final driver change of the day for the 127 Adra Esports team. We'll see what he can do. Fode still leads us here in the 941 machine. When he comes down, will it be Fode or will it be Stanley exiting pit road? We'll find out here in just a couple of moments, as I'd expect in the next 2 laps at most, we'll see the rest of these guys. Fode comes around, he comes down. Here he goes, Tyler Fode to pit lane in the Lake Norman Motorsports 941. Watch for that to potentially trigger a couple other guys, as we've had a crash here exiting pit lane. It's the Adra Esports entry of Aaron Brown. Exactly what we saw earlier with Hunter Smith. Justin Wadsworth had his issues as well. So Fode jacks up. And out he goes, Ethan Stanley. Real good butter, or damn good butter, back behind the wheel of that entry. So we'll watch for now Jordan Owens to potentially work his way to pit lane. I would expect him to work his way into the box this time by, as he dives to the left of that line. No, he's going to stay out, but Cale Pocock going to come down. We'll see if he stays in that race car or if he opts to give way to his co-driver, which I believe is Logan Key. Key's not here, though. Well, he's wrecked again entering that pit box. Cale Pocock going to work on his pit road entries this week. That is his homework as per the team orders. As first time down, he hit the garage wall. Second time down, he spun it out. So not the day that Cale Pocock has been hoping for, as they're not servicing the race car, are they? I don't believe they're servicing. I hope they're not servicing the race car sideways like that. But if I was another car coming down pit road, I'd be questioning what in the world is going on right there. But nonetheless, Cale Pocock sideways on the pit lane as Jordan Owens looks to get a lap led here today. He'll come around with 6.5 seconds over second place Richie Hearn, and another 12 back to Ethan Stanley. So 18 seconds separating Owens and Stanley, who will eventually retake that race lead after what has been a phenomenal drive for him here today. Jennifer McDonald had a brief off-track moment there, third in GT3, but has been able to continue on without much of an issue there. And Jordan Owens going to stay out, so he'll lead a lap. Richie Hearn going to come down. And let's see from onboard Hearn one of these pit stops and what he sees with that sideways Kill Pocock entry. Is Pocock just sitting there? He's just chilling out. Here comes Hearn to the box. He's going to jack that car up. And he's going to get out. Jim Herrick going to get behind the wheel of the 40 Raceware entry. Of course, Herrick, a regular in the Warriors for Peace IndyCar Series here in the Elite Racing League. As we have a couple drivers in the waiting room, let's go ahead and talk to Cale Pocock. Hey, Cale, it's Robert up in the booth, and you sideways on pit lane. How's it going out there?
I just parked it. My co-driver had a computer issue, so he's not going to get a minimum drive time, and I'm just bad today. I don't have it. I'm just frustrated. So I'm not gonna get in anybody else's way. And just having an off day.
Hey, we're all allowed those off days. Just the only thing you got to practice this week is your pit entries, because we saw a couple sketchy ones out there for you here today. But overall here today, is there a moment where you wish you did something a little bit differently out there on the racetrack, or has it just not been a good day overall?
Yeah, pretty much just overall. I struggle really bad in turns 4 and 5, and I got a lot of 1Xs there, but I felt pretty good in practice and qualifying, and then once we got in the race, I just had trouble holding focus and stuff, and just one of those off days, like I said. And then with Logan having his computer issue and not getting his minimum drive time, we're gonna get disqualified anyway, so I'm just like, all right. If I was feeling good, I would have kept going just for the experience, but not today.
Well, nonetheless, it was a good effort anyways, and we look forward to seeing you out here in a couple months at Le Mans. That one's going to be quite exhausting, I think. And do you know what the plan is as of yet for your Abbott Motorsports team? Are you still going to field 2 cars? Or are you going to combine the 2 efforts for 1 entry for Le Mans?
I didn't know that we could combine them, so that's a good question. I thought we were going to do 2 because we had 2 separate teams, but if we can combine them, that might be the way to go.
Well, it's going to be a 24-hour race, so it's going to be tiring, especially if it's only 2 of you.
Yeah, well, we do have Brent also on our team, so we do have 3 drivers, and then I think they said we can bring in special one-off drivers for the Le Mans, so we'll see how that goes.
Well, there you go, Cale. Thanks for joining us and giving us a bit of insight on your day here today. Hopefully the next one goes a little bit better for you.
I hope so, too. I'm thinking the caddy might be a little better at that Le Mans track than these tight, flowing corners.
Well, that's all we can hope for. Thanks for joining us, Cale.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Cale Pocock. Let's go ahead and talk to William White. Hey, Billy Blanco. How's it going?
Hi. I saw, I briefly jumped in the chat a little while ago. I was out shopping, and then I checked back when I got home. And I checked back in the chat again. I saw Gavin Hibbs saying, "Ooh, William's in trouble." So I'm like, "Oh, what have we done?"
Oh, no, you're not in trouble.
I closed my phone because I had to get in the car, and I am very against distracted driving, so I didn't see that you wanted a word. So I saw, and I'm on the computer now. So hi, it's going well. I'm just watching Dominic at the minute. He's in 4th.
Yeah, Dom's doing a great job out there. If you want to join us the rest of the next 45 minutes, you're more than welcome to do so. We're in the closing stages of this one here at Brazil, and it's been a pretty good day so far.
I'm so down. I've got nothing to do. I can commentate for 45 minutes.
There we go. I've even given you a production feed. Let's go ahead and talk to Cameron Rich, who's waiting in the waiting room. Hey, Cameron, it's Robert and William up in the booth. You got a copy?
I sure do. How's it going, guys?
It's going well. You guys are currently sitting there in the 2nd spot. What more do you need to get up there and battle it out with that 174 car?
Talent, speed, a little bit of grip, maybe some luck, and maybe something catastrophic. I mean, we're right there. It's just those guys in that car are so quick. The Enosis guys, I mean, they walked away from the field the last race at Indy, but we are closer this time, so at least we're making some progress.
Yeah, you're definitely a little bit closer, and only 12 seconds back. It sounds like a lot, but it's not compared to some of the stuff we've seen out of that Enosis team. But what, from your point of view, what's been the biggest challenge out here today? We've seen some pretty crazy battles, especially when those GTP cars are trying to lap these GT3s here today.
You know, it's not been too bad with only like 15, 16 cars on the track. I was thinking it was going to be pretty chill. We got kind of nerfed by, I think it was the 9 car a little bit early on and gave us some aero damage and kind of cut short that battle we had with the Enosis guys just a little bit. We've lost a little bit of track position and now we're kind of just holding on to what we have. But just kind of trying to really, I drive the GTPs mostly when I'm doing officials and endurance races and stuff, and it's so different when you get in the GT3 and you're getting past instead of being the one passing cars. So just really for myself, it's getting that confidence just to like really just take your line and let the GTPs go around you, because it's just so different when you're on the other side and you're having to make the moves and that's the biggest challenge to me, I think.
Yeah, definitely can be pretty tough out there. Will, you got any questions for our friend Cameron Rich here?
Yeah, well, I've only been here for about 120 seconds, but the 77 machine definitely does look quick from what I've seen. Only 12 seconds behind Enosis. But generally, what have been your main strengths that you've had this race to really hang with that 174 for as long as you have?
Really, I think we just have a pretty decent setup this week. When they changed the GT3s up for season 1, I believe, pretty much season 4 and the 24 setups all just stopped working. So we had to figure out something completely different, and our Indy setup was fine. It was fine. It was a race car. It turned a little bit. It went forward. It went backwards a little bit, but this one's a little bit better. Just more grip to kind of have a little bit more confidence and. Yeah, we didn't have a lot of practice time because Drew and Richard and I were all in Coda just a couple weeks ago for MotoGP. So we actually were drinking while we were hanging out at Verbo. We were like, we need to practice for Interlagos. So we did that. Got a pretty good setup going on. I think our car is pretty fast. Like I said, we need some more talent and more speed and more everything to catch the Enosis guys. They're just really quick. But I mean. It made me really, really happy to be able to battle with them for like 3 laps to start the race. I mean, it's 3 laps, but 3 laps more than we got to battle last week. So
yeah,
definitely, you guys have absolutely done an awesome job.
That's definitely a good point there. And Cam, next race out is the 24 hours at Le Mans. What's your thoughts on that one, and when does preparation start for heading over to France?
Oh, I'm so excited. I know a lot of people have been a little bit uneasy about doing it during Le Mans. I think that's going to be so cool, just having it on in the background and doing it. I hope we get a big turnout. We have our 4th driver lined up already, so I think that's going to be, we're probably going to practice, I don't know, we got 2 months or so, I think, until the race. So probably within a month we'll start or so, and then that's probably just going to double as practice for the Conspit, I think. We don't have the official Le Mans, but we'll double that as our practice for Conspit later in the year too. So I think it'll be really fun. I hope the turnout is good. I think if the turnout is good, it'll be a really fun race.
Well, it should definitely be a good one, Cam. Thanks for joining us here this afternoon. Any shout outs you want to give before we let you go?
I want to shout out my wife because she's watching. I want to shout out you guys for broadcasting these long ass races, like 2 hours. I know it's one of the shortest ones on the calendar, but I know Le Mans is probably going to be a time. And I want to shout out my team for just, I mean, we came out here. We're not road racers, and we're doing pretty well. So just shout out to those guys. Just good to see that we can come out here and be competitive.
All right, Cam, thanks for your time here today, and best of luck in the rest of this one.
Thanks, guys.
that was Cameron Rich, driver of the 77 for Isentech Enterprises. Doing a nice job here today, currently chasing down Francisco Bernuevo for first in GT3. And Will, we saw some driver changes recently. Ethan Stanley got back in for Tyler Fode. Jim Herrick took over in the number 40 machine. Aaron Brown got into the 127, and while we were talking to Cam, was able to make the move on Justin Vandenborough, who just got in for the first time today. Took over for Jordan Owens. And Gavin Hibbs back in the 961 entry. He took over for Justin Wadsworth. So a couple of big changes up there towards the front. And we're still expecting a couple of pit stops to come in GT3 in probably the next 10 minutes or so, which should see the final pit stops for them. So a lot of changes in the closing 30 minutes and a bit in this one here today.
Yeah, I think if you're, mainly talk about the fight for the lead in GT3 class between Barrionuevo and Garcia. That's the really where Isentech can start to actually capitalize, because it only takes one mistake, you speed in the pit lane, or even if it's the Isentech being able to actually push the pit lane just that much harder, get a better pit stop, make better use of their fresh tires on the outlap, potentially look at an undercut. That, I think, is where Isentech can look to gain the most time on Enosis. Otherwise, it's definitely Enosis's race to lose. I think when we're coming up to such a critical point in a race where it's still only 12 seconds in it and you're coming up to the last round of pit stops, I think this is now kind of your pivotal moment in the race of just no mistakes. Execution is the main thing, and especially for Enosis, just trying to maintain that lead as much as they can, because it's Isentech that have all the work to do. And if Enosis realise that and play to that, then I think they'll do okay.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. And I'm not sure how much of the early going of this one you were able to see, but on lap number 1, Ethan Stanley had actually wrecked this race car, was backwards, facing the wrong direction, and was able to battle his way back up. Gavin Hibbs and Jordan Owens were the top 2 earlier on, and they ended up getting collected by the 70 car in just a freak incident going by one of the GT3s, and sent Jordan Owens sliding into the side of the Gavin Hibbs machine, sent him around. And it's been pretty chaotic in GTP, but GT3 has really been calm. Bernuevo, that car started on the pole. Garcia, that car started second, still running second. McDonald started third, still third. Dylan Haver, that team started fourth. They're pitting right now from the 4th position. So there hasn't been a lot of movement in GT3 whatsoever.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's something you'll see a lot of these races. Obviously, the field isn't empty by any means, but it's certainly thinner than a typical sports car field, only sort of 10 to 15 cars per class. So when you have these longer races, 2.5 hours, this one, it means that even the smaller pace differences, can become really exacerbated. You talk about maybe half a second between 2 cars in qualifying. That can be well over a minute eventually at the end of a race. So it very quickly, once you get past your teething problems that you'd see in the opening laps or things like that, like you mentioned Ethan Stanley's accident, once those are kind of worked through, you will start to see the field naturally spread out for the most part, with the exception of, like, we've got Aaron Brown and Justin Vandermeer right on top of each other, less than 4 seconds apart in second and third in the prototype class. But that is really the only close-ish battle that we have on the track. Everyone else is, for the most part, at least 10 seconds apart. So I think in these endurance races, once you get past those first couple of laps, drivers will start to focus more on just not making mistakes, hitting their marks every lap, every corner, and somewhat naturally that the field will thin out, and you'll see less of those brutal battles that you might see in a shorter sprint-like race.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. I mean, I mentioned it a couple times here today. Oh my gosh, I just noticed Francisco Bernuevo's helmet. Did you see that, Will?
It's like a big skull thing. It's like Ghost from Call of Duty.
That is
scary,
creepy.
Actually.
That is creepy right there, but I love it. The Enosis driver, Bernuevo.
I don't want that behind me.
That's just creepy. I don't want to look at it again. Oh man, we had another driver change. Caleb Pecumer got back behind the wheel. Dylan Haver came out of that car, so the 959 back to Pecumer, who had a great opening stint. He's got those lights flashing. He knows where that button is, letting Brett Gray know that he's coming on through, or trying to get through anyways. And we have a different driver in the field here today compared to Indianapolis. Dave Huckleberry not racing here today, Will. He actually gave way to his new son. He has two sons out here. Ryan Huckleberry started the car, and now Zach Huckle Evans is behind the wheel of that number 5. He's having a great day here so far. Currently sitting 7th
Zach
in
Huckle
class.
Evans,
Yeah,
in his debut. He's doing brilliantly.
I was gonna call him Evansberry, but Huckle Evans just sounds better because he could at least be Z Huck. You know, we got Z Huck and R Huck out there. It's fantastic.
I think he's been mowing the lawn for Dave, because he's cut a bit of the grass down there by the last
Dave
corner
doesn't
there.
like
But he's doing
grass.
all right.
Dave doesn't like grass. He's got stones on his front lawn. Instead, Richard Garcia had a brief off track right there. I think just trying to use a little bit of those extra runoffs on the racetrack, trying to get some sort of an advantage on Barrenuevo. Just not quite able to do it as of yet. Jim Herrick just ran his quickest time of the session. Currently sitting 4th there in class in the 40 racewear entry. Doing a nice job so far. A lot of these guys are. Zach Rogers coming down pit lane. This is Zach's... Zach has raced every minute of this race so far. They've had some issues. They spent quite a bit of time on pit lane earlier on, Will, after a lap 1 shunting. But they've worked their way now back to the pits. I wonder if John Cutlip's going to get in now and run a little bit of time here today for the first time. And yes, it is. As you see, Cut has taken over on the bottom. So Rog to Cut, as John Cutlip going to hop behind the wheel of that one.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of Jonathan Cutlip on the oval side of things. Obviously, one of, I would say, the most naturally talented drivers in the series, and on his day is absolutely unbeatable. But we've not seen a lot of him in sports cars. So we will see just what he can do. Of course, we know how good he is on the oval side, but pretty much none of that translates to a prototype around a downforce-heavy track like Interlagos. So we'll see if he can get a couple more positions, but I look at the scoring tower in the top left, and I'm pretty sure that he's 5 laps behind Gavin Hibbs. So unless he can make up about 7.5 minutes, I don't think he can do much. And I think the 88 team might just be consigned to a P7, which isn't bad by any means, but I think Caleb is just now looking to see off the race now without any mistakes.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And what would be your top 3 in Elite based off of talent all around? I'm going to let you do that right now. Top 3.
Top 3. Okay. I know my top 2, and that's Ethan Stanley and Jonathan Cutlip. I don't know what order I put them in, actually. I think... I'm going to say Stanley, just because he kicks everyone's backsides in literally everything. Particularly the road courses. I think if it wasn't for stage yellows in Cup, he'd win every race by 30 seconds. So I'm going to say Ethan Stanley, then Jonathan Cutlip. I don't know, because you could throw a lot of names out there. Tyler Footy's won 1 million championships, Tate's won 1 million championships. Weeks as well. I think I'm going to say, for 3rd, I'm going to say Tate. I think in recent times, I think it's been a bit more consistent. I think I just jog my recent memory. I think Footy's had a few more poorer results than Tate has on the whole. Poorer for his standards, but I think Tate's been slightly more consistent.
All right,
from
so
what I remember.
summarize your top 3.
So top 3, Tyler Footy, Tate Lytle, what's his name? I can't remember. Tate Lytle 3rd, Jonathan Cutlip 2nd, Ethan Stanley 1st.
Ooh, all right. So I'm gonna go Tyler Footy. He's the winningest driver in Elite Racing League history by almost double anybody else. So I'm going to go Tyler Footy as first. I think he is the most well-rounded driver. Zach Huckle Evans on pit road, by the way. And Richard Garcia came down and gave way to Drew Eisenman in the Eisentech entry. So that's their final pit stop of the day. I'm going to go Tyler Footy. I think Ethan Burrell is up there as well.
Ooh.
I think that's a very solid driver. And Francisco Bernuevo's pitting right now, by the way, in the 174 machine. Third, that's where it gets really tough because there's a couple drivers I'm considering. I'm going to go Josh Osborne third on that list as the top 3.
That's a good shout. That is a very, very good shout. He's actually
very underrated.
He's doing very, very well.
Yeah,
he's Kentucky. Oh, he actually kind of kicked butt. He actually did kind of sick. So I can't hate that pick.
He led a bunch of laps. Honestly, I think he's very good. But if I had to throw another couple drivers in there, Matthew Weeks, I think, is a guy you always have to consider. John Cutlip, of course. And somebody that a lot of people sleep on, and I think he sleeps on himself too, David Tooker. I think he is a very, very well-rounded driver. He's good on ovals, good on road courses. He's just a very good driver. And if you look at... Actually, you know what? Let me rework my top 3. I'm going to have Tyler Fode in there.
Okay.
Tyler Fode's in there for sure. Ethan Burrell's in there for sure. Adriano Pinheiro is in there as well.
Oh, actually. No, he actually, yeah, he's very good.
He's
the thing is, I feel like Ethan Stanley's on his level in IndyCar now. I think Ethan Stanley's made that progress.
It's tough,
but genuine, there is not a single series ever where Ethan Stanley hasn't just smoked everyone. And so I think you have to have him as number 1 because he's just like Foti as well. He is really good, as you say. He's won everything there is to win. But it's kind of like Lewis Hamilton, where yeah, he's won everything. Everything he touched turns to gold. But Ethan Stanley's a bit like a Max Verstappen, where he's kind of come in. He's younger. I'm not even gonna say he's quicker, but he kind of just smokes everyone.
I'm gonna disagree with that.
You think so?
Elite officials didn't hand Ethan Stanley a championship, so I don't think you can compare those two.
Well, no, but I'm pretty sure Ethan Stanley. How many titles has Foti won? He's got like 7. Because Stanley's got 5, I think, or 4. He probably have 5 at the end of the season. Honestly, he's smoking everyone in GTPs, so he could probably have 5.
Hey, shout out Ethan Burrell hanging out in the YouTube chat. We just gave him some shout outs as one of our top elite talents, and he's hanging out here. He's cheering on Justin Vandermeer and Jordan Owens and Mr. Cam Rich as well, and me. He likes me too. I guess he don't like you, Will. You're too British.
Well, honestly, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
that's fun.
So looking here, Justin Vandermeer has actually been able to cut about a second off of that gap between himself and Aaron Brown. Let's take a look at the lap time history here, and you can see it. A couple laps ago, 2.5 seconds, Vandermeer was able to cut off that gap between himself and Brown. Brown gained about 0.4 back, and then Vandermeer took 0.3 back last time by. So if he continues just cutting a little bit in each and every lap, he's got 25 minutes to go. We could see Justin Vandermeer second on that podium. I'm going to call it now. There's not a chance that any of these guys get Ethan Stanley. Unless his engine blows, he gets wrecked, he decides he doesn't like iRacing anymore and quits to go play R Factor. One of those things. That's the only way.
I mean, the way Ethan Stanley's going, he could pop down to the kitchen, have a cup of tea, get back in the sim rig, still be in the lead. He's nearly a minute in front of everyone else in the prototype class.
It's absolutely wild.
He's lapped everyone. I think he's about to lap Jim Herrick. Just looking at intervals, he's about 1.5 minutes in front of him. So I think he's about to lap Jim Herrick, which means... Oh, there you go, he has. So he's lapped everyone up to 3rd, which is unheard of in pretty much any discipline. He's 56 seconds in front. But I genuinely... I think the fight between the 127 and the 54... I don't know for sure if Vandermeer will get him, but he's got 25 minutes to do it, which is about 13 laps, give or take. So I think it will end in a fight, for sure. They'll fight hard for it, because I think Vandermeer is slightly quicker. Just I know that Fueled Up, they do a lot of the IRAs, special events, Daytona, Sebring, Le Mans, Suzuka, things like that. So I know that they're well versed in sports car. I don't know about Brown's team, but I know that Van der Merwe is quick in these cars, and I have no doubt that he will probably get up to the back of that 127 before long. But Aaron Brown will put up a fight, so we'll have to wait and see.
I want to give a shout out to the Night Racing number 99 team. They've had a very quiet but solid day here today. They have a couple fans in the YouTube chat as well. Jennifer McDonald currently behind the wheel of that entry and doing very, very solid, holding on to third. Caleb Pecumer as well has done a great job here in the Lake Norman Motorsports 959. Dylan Haver also in that car here today has done a great job. Logan Shea holds on to the 5th position for Leviathan Racing. That 70 car was involved in an earlier incident that kind of shook up the race here today, but they've recovered rather nicely. Austin Anabnett currently 6th in GT3. He's had some quick pace here today. Jesse Racines, the co-driver in that car. Both drivers having some solid stints. Zach Huckle-Evans behind the wheel, the number 5 for Venom Racing. He sharing the car today with Ryan Huckleberry. Holds on to 7th, and Brett Gray out of today's race. That's the only GT3 retirement on the day, so not too bad, honestly, for GT3. Able to have 7 of their 8 still out here, but one thing that's crazy to me, Will, is the top 6 in GT3 right now started in those exact same positions.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what we harken back to before about the slightly thinner fields. It'll naturally exacerbate when you've got larger pace differentials. But I think the more impressive thing to note for the GT3 class, I mean, typically the slower class cars, which in this case are the GT3, they'll typically have this less experienced drivers. Which I look at this list of drivers. I mean, Barrio Nuevo and Enosis are new to Elite, but evidently they're very experienced in sports car racing as a whole. Drew Eisen and Cameron Rich in 2nd place we've seen before. You know, the Sweetling Norman cars we've seen before, Venom Racing we've seen before. But these are typically, if you look on the NASCAR side of things, typically, which is what Elite runs, they're usually further towards the back of the pack. Obviously, these guys making leaps and bounds of progress at the same time, but they're not exactly your Fotis, your Stanleys, your Burrells. So I think what's more impressive is that we've only had one retirement out of the 8 cars. They're all within 2 laps, and after nearly 2.5 hours of racing. In the 20-ish, 30-ish minutes I've watched, I've not seen a single big mistake out of really any of them. And I think that speaks volumes to how well this lot have done, more so than any one lap pace could really signify. You know, Jen McDonald, she's doing really well up in 3rd for Night Racing. Caleb Pecumer and Austin Anabnett for Lake Norman, they're just collecting solid points as well. But more so than that, it's also just good race practice. It's getting used to these long endurance events that a lot of these guys won't be used to. Because if you look at the roster, there's a lot of crossover between the NASCAR side and the sports car side. So when these guys that typically run the ovals come into these events, they're not quite used to the longer races where you're more spread out and more thin and you're focusing just on yourself. But these guys, especially in the GT3 class, have taken to it exceptionally well, and they've done really well. So I'm very impressed that they've only had one retirement up to this point, with the race nearly finished.
Well, you look at the race as a whole, and we only have, I believe, 3 cars out of today's race, and a couple of those were solo incidents. We haven't had any major incidents aside from earlier on when Jordan Owens and Gavin Hibbs got together after some contact between Owens and the 70 machine. But other than that, it's been a very clean race. These guys have done a phenomenal job here today and have really put on quite a show. And I give a lot of credit on this to the admins of this series. We heard Ryan Schuld talking about it earlier on. They use a committee to decide on the penalties that are assessed throughout the race. They do drive-through penalties, sometimes a time penalty if needed, but the drivers are held to a higher standard in this series compared to some other series that we've seen in the past, and penalties that actually kind of mean something, you know, like you get a drive-through that hinders your performance in the race. You have to bounce back from that, and you have to race smart. It's kind of a ladder step. You have the the drive-through, then you have a stop and go, and you have time penalties. So these drivers are held to a fairly high standard, and the admins have done a phenomenal job of holding the drivers to that mark, and it's shown in the performances we've seen out here on the racetrack. So kudos to the admin team of this series here in the Solo Racing Sports Car Series, and I'm looking forward to seeing in a couple of months at Le Mans what we can do there. That's going to be a long race. There's going to be exhaustion. There's going to be drivers that maybe aren't racing to their fullest of potential because of that exhaustion of the 24-hour race, but nonetheless going to be one heck of a good show. And as I mentioned, we're going to try to carry all 24 hours right here on the Elite Racing Network, so be sure to join us for that on June 14th.
Yeah, I think Le Mans, the 24, will be the true test of just what these drivers can do in terms of their consistency and their mental and physical endurance, more than anything else. Like I say, you can qualify well at Le Mans. You can qualify on pole by 2 seconds. That's all well and good. But can you do that for 700 odd laps? That becomes the bigger question, you know. And it's, you know, you spend a lot of time preparing your car as well. I have no doubt. I know us and the App guys will be in test sessions and whatnot, refining the setup constantly to get every last millisecond out of that car that we absolutely can. So I definitely think that'll be the big crescendo of the season, as it were. But I think all 7 races on the schedule, obviously the 2 that we have had already have produced brilliant racing with some really high quality performances up and down the field. And I think with the way it's looking, I think the next 5 races will be more of the same, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And again, it's just been phenomenal to see the start to this series and kind of foreshadowing what it's going to turn into, just by the way that these drivers have performed each and every race so far. Only 2 in, but Indy was a phenomenal race. And again, yeah, these guys want to see some more GT3. Let's do it. Francisco Bernuevo leading by quite a margin, 32 seconds over second place Drew Eisenman. Jennifer McDonald, 46 seconds back from Drew. That's third in the GT3 field. Currently working her way through a little bit of lap traffic. That's Caleb Pecumer, the 4th place GT3 car right up the road. So 4th is currently a lap down to your GT3 leader. Logan Shea holding on to position number 5 in class ahead of Austin and Abnett, who sits 6th. Zach Huckle-Evans in 7th. And Brett Gray out of today's race. So that is your GT3 field. But let's keep an eye on this. It's not really a battle, but it's one of the closest grouping of 2 cars that we have on the racetrack. Jennifer McDonald and Caleb Pecumer, 3rd and 4th, or I guess we could say 4th and 3rd, as McDonald trying to work her way by to clear and set sail towards that 2nd place car of Drew Eisenman, who's quite a ways up the road with 15 minutes to go.
Yeah, I think the Eisen-Tekanosis fight is all but done. I mentioned execution on pit road being really important. I don't know if any trouble befell the Eisen-Tek machine, but of course that gap has tripled since the pit stop. So I think that fight with 15 minutes to go is pretty much over and done with the 30-second gap. But riding on board now with Jennifer McDonald with Night Racing, this is, like I said, it's not a scrap as such, but I think Jennifer McDonald does want to get past the 959 Lake Norman car before long. We saw Caleb using the headlights a little bit ago on another GT3. We'll see if Jennifer gives Caleb the same treatment, as it's now been an entire lap at least of Jennifer McDonald being right up the bumper of Caleb Pecumer. She'll have the slipstream coming down the front straight here. She's actually coming down to the pits, as is Caleb Pecumer at the exact same time. Oh no, they're both just
that's kind of the line
shortening the distance. Yeah,
today. Everyone's kind of cut over and tried to work their way through that way. But we'll keep our eyes on this. I believe that might have been Justin Vandermerle that just went by them. Yes, Vandermerle just got cleared of that battle that's going on there between McDonald and Pecumer. You wanted to see if the headlights got utilized. Let's see if we can look back from the Pecumer machine and see if we get any flashes. Shout out JD Designs on board there. on the Peculiar machine. Oh, this is getting sketchy. Side by side. Jennifer McDonald on driver's left, Caleb Peculiar on the right side. Peculiar's not giving up here easily, and if you're the night racing team, you're probably getting a little frustrated considering that's a lap car on your right side that's racing you as if it's a battle for position.
Although Caleb was given space, and eventually I think he
Caleb did move out of the way.
conceded that battle. Yeah, but a lap down on the so he very much clear, and I think night racing now can relax. They've cleared the 959. The 959 is now a whole lap down, and they've not got to worry about Eisenman or any of that lot up the road. They are, 40 odd seconds clear. So now is the time, last 10 minutes, bring it home, get some good podium points, and to next race for them lot.
Very nice looking livery on this number 70 machine. Looks like it's got a dragon down the side of it. That is the only Ferrari that we have in the field here. That's the 70 of Logan Shea out on the racetrack. So kind of cool to see the different looks of these race cars and what they're carrying on board. Obviously, we have the two McLarens out front in GT3 and Francisco Bernuevo and Drew Eisenman. Then the Corvette of Jennifer McDonald. Oh no. Peculiar's gotten back by here, Will. So that battle gonna pick back up amongst these two.
I would be too chuffed with Caleb in back. Probably Jennifer could have made a mistake, which is to pull away. So this battle is over it would seem. You might see the headlights this time around.
Well, it looked like we had someone off the racetrack a little bit further back, but nonetheless, everyone able to continue there. Yeah, the headlights may come into play, but at the same time, I think McDonald kind of knows where they stand. You're not going to close 50 seconds in 10 minutes on the Drew Eisenman machine. That'd be really tough to do unless something catastrophic happens. So maybe just holding in line and playing it safe at this point, but nonetheless, good job here by this GT3 field. And I want to go back up front. Jonathan Cutlip, well, actually I don't have to go far because he's right there. He's to the left of Jennifer McDonald. Cutlip's been able to work his way back up past this GT3 field, so he's putting that car back to 7th overall, and that's a great recovery drive by himself and Zach Rogers. They were last earlier on in this race. They spent quite a bit of time on pit lane. I thought they were done early on just by the amount of time they spent sitting in their pit box, but nonetheless able to battle back as Peculiar had an off-track moment there. McDonald still wasn't able to get by, so gotta wonder if potentially they went off the track together. But anyways, Cutlip able to work his way back and has done a good job there. He is quite a ways off the rest of the field. 2 laps off of Gavin Hibbs and 9 laps off your overall race leader. So unfortunate there for Cutlip, not going to be able to battle for any big positions out there. Aaron Brown holding on a 2nd overall behind Ethan Stanley. Justin Vandermeer 10 seconds back in the 3rd position. Jim Herrick another 30 back in 4th. Corey Abbott 3.5 seconds behind Jim Herrick for 4th. And Will, I know you missed a good chunk of the beginning of this race, but this is an amazing recovery drive by Corey Abbott. We saw him around countless times in the early going of today's race, and the way that he's persevered through this one is a really solid recovery drive for that 121 machine. And the fact that he's potentially going to be able to get up there and battle for 4th as well, it's definitely something to be proud of.
Yeah, been a very, very impressive recovery drive from Corey and from Dominic. So we'll see if they can close it off here. You see Jim Herrick just in the distance there, but the gap has been steadily closing. We're under 10 minutes to go through the cards here.
Sounds like William having a little bit of a technical issue over there. His mic getting a little choppy, but he'll work on that.
Oh no! My internet dying.
Are you okay? I think you might be okay. As Corey trying to work his way by Jennifer McDonald and Caleb Becumer.
Hope so.
There's a little delay, I think, as Corey goes to the right side of McDonald trying to get by. McDonald was able to clear Becumer again. So Corey trying to close that gap up to Jim Herrick. It's 4 seconds now separating the two. But once Corey's able to clear McDonald as he does now, I would expect that gap to come down a little bit. I think Corey's quicker than that of Jim Herrick. So potentially a 4th place run in store for the 121 Abbott Motorsports machine with 7.5 minutes to go in today's Brazilian GP. Once again, thanks everyone for joining us as well. It's been one heck of a good day here, and really impressed. We've had about 150 of you join us throughout the day here today. And a reminder, next race in this series, June the 14th. We're going to start bright and early, 10 a.m. I do believe for that one as well. And we're going to go for 24 hours. We'll see how the broadcast team holds up for that one. And the broadcast team, meaning me and anyone else that may join throughout that event. But it's going to be an exciting one. Corey Abbott shaved about a half a second there last time by. We'll see if he's able to close in a little bit further on Jim Herrick. But I want to keep an eye on this. This has just been interesting. Jennifer McDonald and Caleb Becumer. Becumer, I think, is a little quicker than that of McDonald, if I'm honest with you. But McDonald just has a lap ahead. So the position definitely in favor of that number 99 car. But Becumer still feels like he's quick enough to get up there and have some sort of a fight. Not that it is a fight anyways, because they're separated by a lap, but we're going to jump away from that because Corey Abbott's gotten this gap lower than 3 seconds now. He is on a mission right now to catch Jim Herrick, and we'll see if he's able to do so as we'll focus on Corey Abbott in the 121 car. This is a great battle between these two. 2.5 seconds the gap, with just over 5 minutes to go. So Corey's going to need a couple perfect laps here, but if he can do it, he's going to wind up in the 4th position overall here today. As William White just doing a quick reset of his system, he'll join us for the conclusion of today's festivities. And again, shout out to everyone behind the scenes that makes this series run. Ryan Schull, Justin Vandermarl, Jordan Owens, Tyler Fody, everyone that plays a part. Dave Huckleberry for his assistance getting set up on the production side for this, just making sure everything runs smoothly. William White for joining me here in the conclusion of today's race, and all the drivers that have come along here today. We've had a chance to talk to a lot of them. We hope to talk to a couple more when it comes down to the conclusion of this one. And of course, if you're going to be racing Le Mans, be sure to come and hang out with us in the booth a little bit. Give us some time. Give us a couple words of wisdom there, and we'll bring you in any time of the day, any time of the night. Whatever you got, we're ready to hear it. Is Abbott chasing down Herrick? Just over 1 second separating the two. The battle's on for 4th here in class. Corey Abbott with his personal best of the day, and I believe he was just 2 seconds quicker than that of Jim Herrick. Yeah, the last 2 laps, 1.3, 1.6. Abbott is cooking here as he's closing in on Herrick. We're about to heat up. We're about to look mean as we battle it out for position here. Will, you're back. Are you able to talk now?
The feed looks a lot better. A lot less choppy. Do I sound alright?
You do sound a lot better.
Yay! Because I think the internet started dying, so I just took the booster out and stuck it back in the wall, and all is well. But I see my teammate Corey Abbott is closing right up to the back of Jim Herrick now. Half a second between those two with 4 minutes to go. So I think it's starting to heat up a bit.
Oh no! Corey Abbott goes around.
No, Corey!
Oh, the battle is over. Oh, man. That's just unfortunate there for Corey Abbott. John Cutlip coming to pit lane here. Very unexpected stop for that team. Wonder if maybe they didn't get it full of fuel but we're just about 3 minutes to go in this one, getting down to the closing laps. Three minutes remaining here, William White, as we're working our way around. Just about probably 2 laps to go this time by for Ethan Stanley in the Lake Norman Motorsports number 941 machine. He's had a great day here today, and it's definitely shown out there as he works his way around. Great recovery from his earlier incident. Now, by the way, all your GT3 cars are in order. They don't have GTPs separating them at this point. Bernuevo still leads by 40 seconds over Drew Eisenman. That is third place Jennifer McDonald right ahead. So Bernuevo and Eisenman are very likely to lap up to the second position, be the only 2 cars left on the lead lap in GT3 when it comes to the conclusion of this one. So that is a very blistering day here in the GT3 field. As we take a look once again, Ethan Stanley out front, coming to just 2 minutes to go in this one. It's been a great day here at the Brazilian GP. Glad you've all been able to join us here today, and we're going to keep our eyes on this as McDonald going to go a lap down here in just a moment to that of Francisco Bernuevo, who's having a phenomenal run in that 174 car. That team has put together an absolute flyer of a day here today, and they should be very proud of everything that they've accomplished here this afternoon, because they are well on their way to picking up victory once again here in the Solo Racing Sports Car Series. Well, did your internet die again, my friend?
It's in and out. I can just about hear you. I will say it's been quite a nice day for Ethan Stanley and Lake Norman, as they're 69 seconds ahead of Aaron Brown, now unfortunately now 70. A bit too good. Ethan might back it down just a little bit.
A bit too nice,
But yeah, Ethan Stanley is absolutely, he stomped everyone. With less than a minute to go, it looks like a sure thing for both of our class leaders.
White flags
So
in the
I
air.
think everyone wants to bring it home now.
White flags in the air, 1 lap to go, brought to you by Solo Racing in the Solo Sports Car Series. Stanley's got the white flag. Bernuevo going to work his way around to collect it this time as well, as we have just 1 lap to go in the Brazilian GP here at Interlagos. Stanley going to go by Zach Huckle-Evans, who's having a good recovery drive, 7th in GT3, as he'll work his way around. Not too long to go here now for that of Ethan Stanley, as he's got about a half of a racetrack remaining before he gets his way to collect victory once again here in the Solo Racing Sports Car Series. Stanley and Fody look to be stepping onto that top step of the podium here today, William White. And oh no, he disappeared for a second. I thought he was going to fall out and hand it over to Aaron Brown, which would have been par for the course here with how some of these races end so dramatically. But here he comes, Ethan Stanley, just a couple of corners to go as he rounds the final corner here today. Checkered flag is in the air. Ethan Stanley picks up the overall victory here in the Brazilian GP. Victory once again for Lake Norman Motorsports. Francisco Bernuevo going to work his way around for the final time here as well. He's looking to collect victory on the day. Kyle Evans has wrapped up his day as he had just gotten lapped there by Ethan Stanley. Logan Shea going to officially grab the 5th position as Bernuevo rounds the final couple of corners as well. Here he comes. It's going to be a GT3 victory here momentarily for Francisco Bernuevo and the Enosis team, as they've put together an absolutely stonking performance on the day. Drew Eisenman and company in the Eisentech Enterprises 77 going to lock down the 2nd position, as they have already crossed that start-finish line as well. It's been a great day here at Interlagos. And Will, I'm glad you were able to join me here for the conclusion of this one. It's definitely a lot more fun when you got some friends with you. as Stanley works his way around. We're going to step aside real quick. When we come back, we'll see if we have a chance to speak with any of our top finishers after a great race here today. But we'll be right back anyways. Stay tuned.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
3 years of sellout crowds, 3 years of edge-of-your-seat action, 3 years of jaw-dropping finishes. Worldwide Technology Raceway has rocked the world of NASCAR, and now NASCAR is giving us another reason to celebrate. The 2025 NASCAR Cup Series Championship playoffs are coming. Sunday, September 7th, 2025. Just when you thought the racing couldn't get any more intense, now every single lap matters. One wrong move could be the difference between elimination and being crowned the king. The Enjoy Illinois 300, the Confluence Music Festival, the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs, and for the first time in 15 years, the NASCAR Xfinity Series on Saturday, September 6th. Don't be on the outside looking in. See history being made in your own backyard. Go to www.raceway.com for the hottest ticket of the year.
And we are back here at Interlagos, taking a look at the GTP racing results. The Lake Norman Motorsports 941 taking the victory ahead of Adra Esports 127 and the Fueled Up Racing 54. 40 Raceware in their 40 entry come home fourth. Abbott Motorsports 121 in fifth. Lake Norman in the 961 in sixth. Breakard Fueled Up Racing 88 in seventh. Little Eagle in eighth. Abbott Motorsports 212 in ninth. And Limitless Esport round out the top 10. Then in GT3, it was the Enosis Esports team, the 174, taking the victory there ahead of the Eisentech Enterprises 77 and the Night Racing Blue number 99. That's your top three. Lake Norman 959 in fourth. Leviathan 70 in fifth. The 999 for Lake Norman in sixth. Venom Racing 5 in seventh. And the Sapphire Octane team, the 17, rounds out your finishing order in GT3. As we take a look now, we're going to go ahead and pull in Ethan Stanley, your overall race winner, to talk about today's race. Ethan Stanley, it's Robert up in the booth. You get a copy?
Yes, I do.
Your race started probably not the way you wanted. You were backwards on lap number one and had to kick off a recovery drive, but it was one hell of a performance today, winning by quite a margin over the second place car of Aaron Brown. Walk us through your day here today, and I mean, what were you thinking there on lap number one?
Yeah, first thing I thought was too much rear brake. Just the cold tires are so tough, and I probably should have just had a little bit more front brake in it. But it was a pretty fun recovery drive. Good racing, everyone. Unfortunate what happened with Gavin and a couple lap cars. Felt like we definitely had the pace for 1-2. It was definitely there. But setup was pretty hooked up. Felt pretty good. No real issues through the whole day, other than lap one, of course.
Yeah, of course, lap one was the sketchy moment, but nonetheless, you were able to battle back and take that victory here today. What does that do for your momentum and your your mindset heading into Le Mans coming up for round number 3? That's going to be quite the race there, and it's going to be tough, I think, for all these teams.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna have to put in some prep time, get the setup just right for that. It's pretty. I imagine it's gonna be pretty competitive there. 24 hours. I'm pretty excited. Don't know what the lineup is gonna look like yet, but we should have a good pairing of drivers, and I'm looking forward to that.
Well, Ethan, before we let you go here today, we're going to give you the floor. Any shout outs, sponsors, co-drivers? Who do you got to thank here?
Yeah, of course. Always big thanks to Blue Egg. They're always on the cars. Big shout out to Tyler and all the other guys on the team. We got big shout out to JD Designs, Jonathan Cutlip, for making all these paints for the cars. And big shout out to you for being up here on a Saturday morning broadcasting this.
Absolutely love every moment of it, Ethan. Congratulations on the victory here today, and we'll see you in round number 3 at Le Mans.
Yep, thanks.
That was Ethan Stanley, your race winner here today. We're going to go ahead and talk to Aaron Brown, your runner-up here this afternoon in GTP. Aaron, it's Robert up in the booth. You got a copy?
Yes, I do.
That was a solid run here today for the Adria Esports 127. Walk us through your day here today, and maybe what more did you need to get up there and steal that top step of the podium from Ethan Stanley?
I don't really know. I mean, maybe a slightly better setup. Our setup was kind of struggling through some of these corners, especially around that right uphill right-hander at the very start of the lap. I mean, it's very it was very tight through there, and it was also a little sketchy through turn 11. I think if we had a little bit better setup, we definitely would have. But Adrian was also pretty much fastest all day. I just kind of anchored it in at the final stint there. But Adrian did all the hard work in those first 2 stints, and I really got to give him the props because he gained a lot of time on everybody and put it up front in qualifying, and also just kept us up there.
Yeah, you guys definitely did a phenomenal job, and we saw some really sketchy moments for the GTP field having to work their way through the GT3s. Did you find that to be rather challenging here today as well, or is that more of a visual thing that we're seeing on the broadcast side?
That was definitely a challenge in some areas. I know once Adrian got once he started that second stint, when I believe whoever was in that other car, let me see, Fody, yeah, when he was in the car, we were kind of even pace, but it was pretty much like Adrian gained a second, and then we'd lose a second. It was just kind of all traffic and all of that. So we'd gain and lose time pretty much throughout the entire run with traffic. And most of all, once I got in the car, it was pretty clean. We did have that one moment. Don't know. I forgot what number it was. I think it was 17. Yeah, 17. I did have one moment with them that it's kind of a little incident that I know race control reviewed that already. But other than that, it was pretty much clean and not too bad, and everyone was really respectful out there.
And looking ahead to the next round at Le Mans, when does preparation start for that one, and what will your driver lineup look like? Are you going to add a couple of ringers for that event?
Yeah, we'll definitely or we'll start preparing for that soon. Hopefully, I know Adrian won't be able to make it, so we're gonna have to add one of our other teammates over at Adria. That definitely we'll have to bring on one of those, and we'll also hopefully have Chris and Talon back for next race. They did a great job at Indy last race, but so a long way, a couple months out, so it's about 2 months out, so we still got a long way to Le Mans. So.
Absolutely. Before we let you go here today, any shout outs you want to give, sponsors, teammates? What do you got?
Yeah, shout out teammate Adrian Fernandez. The great run all night long, all day long, really. I'm so used to racing at night, I said night. All day long for Adrian. It did great in those first 2 stints. Just gave me a perfectly clean car and a great position. I just held on to it. I got to thank all my other teammates at Adria, Talon Drake, Chris Pierce. Also got to thank Tyler Aspinall, Brady Floyd, all helping us out there, just giving us words of encouragement all race long. Also got to thank the admins for putting on the show. Got to thank the viewers for tuning in. I got to thank you guys for the broadcast.
It definitely takes an army to put on these races. Congratulations on a solid run, and we'll see you at Le Mans.
Thank you.
That was Aaron Brown, your second place driver. Now let's go ahead and talk to Justin Vandermarl. Justin, it was an eventful day for that 54 car, to say the least. Why don't you walk us through your morning and how everything went down here today for the fueled up car.
My morning was pretty all right. Jordan was clearly the quicker of the two of us, so we wanted to keep him in the car as long as possible. And he had some colorful language after a couple incidents early on. The rebound was good. Our pit strategy didn't really work out for us. I had to save like half a gallon at the end there because we needed to go like one more click on the fuel. But overall, P3 pretty good. Couple guys in the points out we were close by had some trouble, so we're gonna sit I think P2 after this week, which is awesome going into the next event. Hopefully we can just pull a little bit more speed out of it next time and challenge the leader.
Yeah, definitely eventful for Jordan. It looked a little bit more quiet for you. Obviously you had a couple battles going on out there. You were able to close in a little bit on Aaron Brown, having to hold off Jim Herrick as well throughout your final stint, but nonetheless a good day for that 54 team. And from the administrative side, this is the chance that we get to actually talk with an admin here. What were your thoughts on the race here today? It looked pretty clean for the most part.
Yeah, for a circuit as technical and challenging as that can be, not a lot of incidents. I think I only had to give out like 2 or 3 penalties, and I think Ryan gave out 1 while I was in the car. But I would call that a success. Obviously, if we get into like a world of pain, handing out penalties left and right every other lap would be really bad. So smaller field today, which I also attribute to what track we're at. So yeah, the guys that come out there, they run pretty clean and everybody has fun and everyone's respectful for the most part. So I'm not too worried about everything going forward.
And going forward, the next round, of course, is the big one, the 24 Hours of Le Mans. What's your thoughts on that, and how are you guys preparing differently for such a long endurance race compared to this sprint here today?
That one is going to be all about keeping clean. Like, because it is so long, you can afford a couple like more mistakes. But obviously, if nothing happens to your rivals and you kind of just sit in the same spot the whole time, that's not fun either. But it's a track that I've turned a lot of laps at over my racing days. Jordan's done it a bunch. We of course just had the 6 hour in December for Elite there, so everyone should be pretty practiced. And I know a lot of people have the track because a lot of people showed up for that one too. But it'll be good fun. We're working on getting single race entries for that one to kind of bolster the car count up a little bit. I think if we could get like record numbers for that one, it would be ideal, and we don't really need them for the rest of the season. So it's these little obscure tracks that we need cars at, and that's our goal, is to try and pull some more people in here. So,
well, let's definitely hope it works out. And before we let you go, Justin, the floor is yours. Thank your sponsors, your teammates, everyone else that supports each and every race.
Yeah, got a big shout out to Brake Hard on the title sponsor for our team, Fueled Up Racing. Jordan always puts in a lot of time and keeps my head level when we're racing. So we're gonna have Matthew Weeks and Trey Holmes in the car with us for Le Mans. So shout out to those guys. We're gonna put some work in, and of course our Tech Alliance over at Little Eagle with Ryan and Hunter. So everyone puts in a good amount of time, and I think our speed shows just a little bit of bad luck here and there.
Yeah, it definitely does show a little bad luck. I think you guys are going to be a contender at Le Mans there on June the 14th. But thanks for joining us here this morning, Justin, and we'll see you at round number 3.
Thanks, Robert. Take care.
And that was Justin Vandenberl, the co-driver at Fueled Up Racing, alongside Jordan Owens. They had a great day here today, recovering from an early incident that unfortunately took themselves and Gavin Hibbs out of contention, but nonetheless a great day all around. But that's going to do it here. Round number 2 of the Solo Racing Sports Car Series on the Elite Racing Network. My name's Robert Hill Jr. Thanks for joining us here today. Thanks to William White for stopping in for a little bit as well, and all of you for tuning in. But we'll see you next time here tomorrow on the Elite Racing Network. It is the Stay Tuned Truck Series live from Talladega, coming up at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a good night, everybody. Have a good day, I guess. It's only 1 o'clock here in the Eastern Time Zone, and we'll see you next time.